Good morning, everyone. We're going to take a moment and just check to make sure we can be heard in the Zoom webinar. Oh, thank you, Matt. Okay, good morning, Bruno. Okay, so Chair, we are ready to begin when you are.
Is the live manager working yet? Ten more minutes? Yeah.
10 more minutes?
Yeah, the grant server is not working.
Okay. We have 10 minutes that we have to wait for Granicus to get up and running, so please bear with us. Thanks so much. Sam. Are we ready now, Sam? Yeah? Okay, great. Well, welcome to the Board of Supervisors special board meeting this morning on January 31st. We're having our governance meeting. We'll call this meeting to order. Start with a moment of silence. Does anybody have a moment of silence? What?
Yes.
Oh, we have to do Bruno thing first?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we have one supervisor who is participating remotely, and we have to have a majority of the board present. That's correct?
That's right, and the member who's requesting to appear remotely under AB 2449 will tell your board and make a statement in public of the need to participate remotely for just cause.
Okay, Supervisor Spatier?
Madam Chair and rest of the board, since Saturday evening, I have been under the weather. I am still not 100% and do not feel it's appropriate for me to be in the chamber with all you guys, but would love to be a part of this meeting today. And so I'm asking for you to approve just cause for me to be in this meeting virtually.
Okay, comments from the board?
I agree.
Okay. From the public? Is there anything in Zoom? I don't see any hands up in Zoom. Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Do we need a motion or consensus, or how does this?
I think consensus should be fine.
Okay, so do we have consensus to continue with Supervisor Sabatier remotely? Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I should just notify, and I'll be speaking to the board about this particular measure and some Brown Act information at an upcoming meeting, but in the interim, each board member has 2 opportunities for a just cause teleconference appearance under 2449 in any calendar year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will start with a moment of silence. Does anyone have a moment of silence?
Yes, I have a moment of silence.
Okay, go ahead.
Lost a community member in Middletown, a long-term community member. He was 96 years old, Don Johnson. And I just want to give condolences to his wife, Sydney, and his family in South County. So,
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I also, I think we can take this moment to remember Tyree Nichols, his life, the heartbreak his family is going through, and how we as individuals and a nation are affected. So, thanks. Sheriff Howell, will you lead us in the pledge? So we have public input, but we don't have public input on the agenda. So the person, Elaine Brown, would you like to come back next Tuesday? Okay, and we'll have a regular meeting and then we can hear your public input then. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we are going to have our governance workshop today. I'm happy to see so many of our department heads here. We are aligning all of our work with Vision 2028, as all of you know, and we're halfway through. We've got 5 years left to go to 2028, so I think this is a moment to kind of track some of the things, the priorities we've been working on. And I feel like this is an exciting point in the year when we get to set our priorities for 2023 and move forward in alignment with Vision 2028. And we have Matthew Rothstein to continue with the welcome introduction.
Good morning, board members. As you'll be aware, in January of 2018, the county hosted a series of 5 community visioning forums to gather the public's priorities. One forum was held in each supervisorial district, and as a result of that public process, the Board of Supervisors adopted 10 key priorities for the next 10 years as the county's Vision 2028 statement. Consider and promote the well-being and economic resilience of every Lake County resident. Maintain a transparent county government that is responsive, efficient, effective, and fair. Continue rebuilding and all efforts to recover from our recent disasters. Enhance public safety, encompassing protecting our residents and serving them well. Develop and maintain a high standard of disaster prevention, preparedness, and recovery in collaboration with all community stakeholders. Grow our economy through focused economic development. Next slide, please. Clean up our neighborhoods through code enforcement. Foster a business-friendly environment. Pursue funding to strengthen communities. Market Lake County as a premier California outdoor recreation destination, and advocate for Lake County's needs through targeted political action. Improve our infrastructure, encompassing roads and transportation, water and sanitation, and internet access for all. Support the county's workforce through targeted training, retention, and recruitment initiatives. Collaborate with tribes, cities, and community groups to maximize opportunities. Care for our county's defining feature, Clear Lake. And finally, invest in Lake County's richest resource, our people. Provide pathways for our youth, leading to bright futures living in Lake County. Encourage volunteerism, service, and action toward the common good. And recognize the wisdom and experience of Lake County's senior citizens and serve them well. In the intervening years, county department heads and staff have been hard at work implementing the community's vision. And this morning, a series of departmental updates will be presented beginning with administration. Thank you, board, for hearing these presentations, and we look forward to your board's discussion later today as well. And now it is my privilege to introduce Susan Parker, County Administrative Officer.
Thank you, Matthew. May I? First, I want to thank everybody too for being here today. It's a different format than we've had before, so I appreciate all the work that you put into your slides and making yourself available for today. And I'll begin because I'm going to stick to the 5 to 7 minutes. So as far as our 2022 accomplishments that fall within the Vision 2028 goals, we did fill the Chief Climate Resiliency Officer position with Terry Logston, and she has begun her work on gathering the information for a climate and resiliency plan. We did create a housing-focused and an economic development-focused DCAO positions with support staff. In fact, we are our second round of interviews next week for the economic development position, so we're really looking forward to bringing that back to the board, a strategic plan for economic development, and also a comprehensive housing strategy. And that would include, in addition to affordable housing, workforce housing. I'm also excited to share we're in the early stages of a broadband implementation development of a plan. We have retained a consultant. We have received some grant funding for our fiber mapping, and we have some money set aside for this consultant. I would say within the next 8 to 12 months, we'll present a plan to the board and those next steps on moving forward. And we hope they can be the project manager too, but we'll find out if they can do that, because it's going to be a very large project for the county. Let's see. We did establish Juneteenth as a lake holiday, and we also updated the policies and procedures manuals. That's not very exciting, but not as exciting as broadband, but we did do that. Next year, we also hope, in addition to the 2 strategic plans, we hope to adopt the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And that's probably one big hurdle that I'm sure there are plenty of people here in this room that would like to see accomplished. And that's all I have for today. I'm more than willing to answer any questions, or if you have any comments, feel free. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Did anyone time me?
From the board have questions or comments? Okay. I think we'll take public input at the end of the presentations. So we'll move through to our next department head, agriculture weights and measures.
Up there, here.
Wherever you feel most comfortable. Okay.
Morning, Board. Catherine Vanderwall, Agricultural Commissioner and Sealer of Weights and Measures. So our 2022 accomplishments within the department, we were able to fill the Deputy Agricultural Commissioner Sealer position with a person in-house, Sam Upton. We co-hosted a cannabis weighmaster training with the California Department of Food and Agriculture's Division of Measurement Standards. Topics included weighmaster regulations and requirements, proper documentation, approved scale types, and scale testing requirements. And our next accomplishment, in December, we resumed our in-person pesticide applicator continuing education courses. These courses provide a pathway for license renewal for Lake County and regional applicators, as well as keeping applicators informed of any regulatory changes statewide. You can skip to the next slide. So 2023, moving forward, some of the things we're hoping to accomplish is fill our vacant ag biologist inspector position, and this will allow a better workload distribution, and to co-host an educational workshop for the cannabis industry with the Department of Pesticide Regulation, focusing on all pesticide laws and regulations that they need to comply with. That is the end. Does the board have any questions?
Questions? Supervisor Green? Did
Just,
you put your hand up? Thanks.
just a comment, very appreciative to see the outreach involving the cannabis industry and having ag on board. And these 2 industries are very closely related, at least on the cultivation side. So I want to give all due praise for this willingness to host these types of trainings, and looking forward to a future direction in that way. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Next, we have Air Quality Management District, and our department head is absent, so CAO?
Yes, thank you. Next slide. Thank you very much. I'm going to just briefly, he talks about the ambient air quality, the grant programs. I won't list them all for you. It's on the screen. And staffing. They've been successful in filling positions. Next year, they can continue with the air quality standards, upgrading monitoring station, and automation of data processing, implement an updated fee rule, increase recruitment efforts, and continue to ensure local needs are considered by the state as they implement new requirements and regulations. He did share with me a statement he would like read into the record. As we maintain our attainment status, it is a key benefit to providing economic development options in Lake County. Failing to meet air quality standards will trigger significant costs to industry and residents, as well as elimination of exemptions for agricultural operations and certain on-road trucks, as well as other industries, all costing significant expenditures to come into compliance. So maintaining our clean air status is essential for economic development. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from the board? All right, we will move on to animal care and control.
Good morning, Supervisors. I'm Jonathan Armis, the Director of Lake County Animal Care and Control. So this last year, we were able to get awarded 3 grants totaling $169,000 with a target to community programs, including like our community cat program and a salary towards a veterinarian, which we're still working on trying to get a potential vet to fill that, but it should help relieve some of the pressures we have. All of our applicable officers that we do have on staff, including me, my deputy, were certified with the state of California to be animal control officers with the state. And then we pivoted over to full-time employment equivalent positions over like 12 plus 900-hour staff, which has helped us provide consistent care to both the public and the animals that we care for. And then we also extended our outreach to the community. We were able to go to a whole bunch of events like Concert in the Park. We did mobile adoption events this year. We did Trucks on the Track, and I'm forgetting one. But for our emphasis this next year, we need to fill the veterinarian position. We know we're on a time crunch. Our current vet will probably be leaving soon. And then filling our 2 vacant officer positions, which we're conducting interviews right now. Hopefully within 2 weeks, we'll be able to conduct those and fill them. We're also going to be exploring contract vet services more. Been working with an RFP with Stephen and admin to shore that up. And then also trying to find full-time vet if there's any interested. And then again, the 2 vacant officers we want to get on, hired, trained, and the resumption of services with that, including the community cat program, low-cost spay and neuter. We are still doing vaccination clinics, and then also our on-call after-hour services, so that if something happens over the weekend or overnight, that we are available. So if anyone has any questions or comments.
Does the board have any questions? I am curious if any adoptions came out of our board chamber visits.
It's hard to tell. I think it is a good thing for us to do when we have the staff available. It's just hard to tell. Right now, throughout the state and the nation, we're seeing that every shelter, regardless if it's a municipal or a rescue, is taking in more dogs than they can place. About 10 to 20% on average, and we're no different. This last year, our live release rates did go down due to that in total, so it is hard to tell.
Well, when you are fully staffed, we would love to have you back.
We will bring them. Yeah.
That was really great. Supervisor Crandall?
Yes, I just had a question, like, I think in regards to like the CAT program, or either that or spay and neutering and whatnot. Is there like any type of initiative where you're working with maybe a nonprofit or someone in the community that has a group that does that work while you're doing all of the hiring or anything of that nature?
The difficulty is there's a shortage of veterinarians, so it's more of the capacity to provide those surgeries. There was just a study conducted in the state, and it was something along the lines of like 40% of the state is unable to provide surgeries to animals through rescues or municipal agencies. So that's more of the choke point in our ability.
All right, thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have assessor recorder, but is he?
He's unable to meet with us at this time, but we're going to bring him back later in the day,
Okay,
if
wonderful.
possible.
Okay. Auditor, controller, county clerk.
Good morning. Well, let's see. So the accomplishments, the Auditor, Controller, County Clerk's Office for 2022, so contract automation project, that's step one of something that could potentially be much larger, could eventually lend itself to going into the document management software that the county recently acquired. But at this stage, that means all contracts have been scanned and all payment processing is electronic, so it's not in paper files anymore, which is big for us. The second one, resumed wedding ceremonies. And so that's just a fun thing we get to do. In the middle of a very serious day, we also marry people, and we are almost always booked, especially during the summer. We're booked months out, so it's pretty neat to note that. And then third, prepared for transition and leadership, which was huge. There was over 40 years for me to try to download, and then what spilled over, I took a ton of notes, and then at this point, just looking to the support and resources offered by the county, so as we move forward. And so then, for points of emphasis, I have 2 slides for points of emphasis. I couldn't narrow it down. So the first one is more of from a technical aspect, addressing challenges with decentralized contracting processes. So continuation of the contract project, as I mentioned. So it could include countywide indexing and then streamlining the process overall, and that's something I look forward to assisting with as we have more discussions about it. Second is implementing new AP software, so accounts payable. That's our check writing software. The RFQ's already done. We're about to select a vendor. We're down to 2, and that's going to happen, I'd say, in the next 60 to 90 days. And so as we do that, we're also going to explore other possibilities as far as electronic payments are concerned. And then third, improving report writing capabilities. That one I have to tackle. There's a lot to that, but it's definitely a goal because I know it will help everybody throughout the county. And then, so this point of emphasis is a little more of a big picture view, just continuing the great work started by Kathy, your board, the county, and the focus on employee retention. So continuing to support the amazing team that I have now. Training and exploring resources that are available are kind of where I'm going to start, but just to focus on hanging on to this really great team that we have. And then secondly, business process efficiencies. So your board recently approved the clerk doc software, and so that's also going to be implemented in the next couple of months. And the 2 main efficiencies that I'd like to point out are, one, fictitious business name statements. That's something that the public often wants to search for, and right now they have to call our office and someone has to answer the phone and search and give them an answer. They're going to be able to go onto the website and search that for themselves. And then secondly, the marriage license application. That's going to allow them to fill it out at home. The information will populate when they come in. It'll just streamline the process overall for obtaining a marriage license through our office. And that's all I have. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Supervisor Green?
It is super quick, and I think I know the answer, but because of the specialized nature of many of your processes, so I'm assuming there's not one, but several proprietary software packages that you're using in there and that you're expanding your use in 23. But I know the county as a whole now has Laserfiche available and stuff like that. So some departments may be able to leverage that and do some workflows. So without putting you on the spot, is this all proprietary all the time as far as your workflows and your software packages, or is there some opportunity to develop some workflows in-house that could leverage this kind of baseline Laserfiche availability we have now for scanning documents, storing documents, stuff like that? And if it is putting you on the spot, I apologize.
It's okay. I'd say the majority of the software we use is pretty respective to what we do, but the Laserfiche, that's where we had already started trying to automate the contracts when that committee was getting together to meet about the document management software. And so now that we have it, I do believe that this can align to where contracts will end up in maybe a software that anybody throughout the county, if they have access to Laserfiche, they'd be able to look at the contract as well. But that's going to take a lot of coordination and so forth. So that's more of a dream, but I do think that that won't be proprietary, that part of it, the contracting part, because that is something that, you know, the other departments, that we could share the information. There's potential there.
Supervisor Crandall?
Glad to be of service to conduct weddings this year.
Wednesday afternoons if you're available. Yeah. We do them right here. Yeah.
I've done 3 so far, but they've all been off-site. Brought
Oh.
the paperwork in, so yeah.
We did do a few in the park across the street. That was fun. So, yeah.
Did one at the county park, and
Yeah.
then over on the lake, 2 on the lake, so it was pretty cool.
Oh, really? Nice. Yeah.
Well, welcome to your first presentation. and
Thank you
Thanks for
very much.
being here.
All right. Well, thank you. for
Thank you.
everything. Okay.
Okay, behavioral health services.
Good morning, Board. I saw this slide come up. I thought maybe Genevieve was going to do this for me, but I'll do my best. Todd Metcalf, Behavioral Services. Good morning. So we have a few things to share, our accomplishments from 2022. We recently established a suicide review team. As some of you may or may not know, Lake County in the state of California has one of the highest, if not the highest, suicide rates. And so we made up a team. It's comprised of the sheriff, coroner's office staff, and invested and interested community members. The team is going to meet very soon. They will be meeting monthly to review deaths by suicide. And as I said, that they will be conducting their first review next month. And what the goal of this is that the team will identify existing systems level, what's working and what's not working. And so once we get some data together, we will be coming back and presenting to the Board of Supervisors the results of that. Excuse me. So we've also expanded narcotic treatment program services by being the first in the state to establish a contract and payment process with the first tribal 638 clinic provider for these narcotic treatment program services. You've heard me, we've presented to the board before around this. And this was done via contracting with New Life Clinic in Ukiah, so, which the board recently approved. And we're excited that we have been able to expand those services. We are also one of a handful of pilot counties entering into a new electronic health record system. You've also heard me talk about this. It's slated to go live March 1, and we are very excited about this because it's going to help us improve our data and reporting outcomes. We've struggled with the system we've had for years. It's very clumsy and archaic, and we don't get, well, what's the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. We're not getting the information that we need, and we're also not able to capture billable services like we should. So we're very excited about this new system. This also will incorporate the California Advancing and Innovating Medi-Cal initiatives, which I'll talk a little bit about here shortly. Homeless outreach van. Oh, sorry, I'm still going on about what we've done. We've had the van for a while, but we're excited that we finally got it. I hate to use the phrase tricked out. We've got one of those wrap things around it. I mean, it's got our logo on it. It's got the contact information. We have a regular schedule. We go around the lake. It's basically geared towards homeless outreach. And staff works with homeless individuals, providing access to resources and programs. We also hand out, toiletries, socks, snacks, whatever we can get our hands on. And our schedule can be found on our webpage. It shows where the van goes, and the community has been very excited about it. We are setting the stage for CalAIM initiatives and Care Court, which you've heard me talk about before. We had to submit an implementation plan to the state as far as how we are going to be able to roll out these initiatives. And so I'm not going to get into all of that. Care Court, we're going to talk more about that, not today. It's a big lift. It's a heavy lift, as is CalAIM. It's affecting a lot of other departments here in the county. Right now, I just learned that the County of Los Angeles is wanting to overturn the legislation recently passed around Care Court, and I will keep the board apprised of that. But the go-live for Care Court in Lake County is July 2024, so we're working on that. We're actually having a meeting this Friday to sort of iron out whose roles and responsibilities and what we're supposed to do. So our points of emphasis, we, again, in response to CalAIM, but even before that we were working on this, we're working on streamlining access to our services. You may have heard of the no wrong door approach. It's sort of just pulling out all the stops and making sure that our folks have access to not only our programs and services, but other programs and services available in the county. We are working on finalizing our strategic plan. I just met with my team last Friday, and we've created sort of a skeletal plan. We're going to have it vetted by staff in the coming months, and I plan to bring that back to the board to share what our goals and objectives are. We retooled our purpose statement, and we came up with a vision statement, so we're very excited about that. Expansion of youth services, another CalAIM initiative that we are working on. It really will, the CalAIM initiative around that is going to sort of expand and relax eligibility requirements to get folks enrolled in Medi-Cal so they can receive the services that they need. Working with Supervisor Sabatier around the future of some kind of a permanent homeless shelter. You know, we recently were working with a contracted service provider to open a warming shelter at Old Juvenile Hall, but that's just not the answer. It's a temporary thing, and so hoping to bring something to the board. We really need to work on figuring out how we're going to solve this issue so that, you know, things are opening and things are closing. We need to figure out a permanent solution, so working on that. Collier Avenue, still hopeful that ground may be broken in March on a 40-unit complex, which will serve folks experiencing mental illness, developmental disabilities, and low income. So we're excited about that as well. And our Clear Lake Clinic remodel, we recently received a planning grant to start work on updating that building. For any of you that have been there, it's in dire need of a facelift. And so we're excited that we got funding for a planning grant to have someone come in and tell us what needs to be done so we can fix that place up. We're also developing a career path training curriculum. I'm proud to say our vacancy rate is fairly low right now, which is kind of unusual for a behavioral health services department. But we're working on developing recruitment tools, retention tools, and sort of turning our department into a behavioral health training ground. So people will come, we can train them up, and hopefully they'll stay. So it's a work in progress, but we're very excited about that. And peer support site and staff certification. We have multiple satellite offices. We call them peer support centers. And when I came to this department, I didn't quite understand what the term peer meant. We employ a lot of folks that have lived experiences, that have experienced or are experiencing mental illness, substance use disorder, and or homelessness. And so what this means is that we will be able to expand our services in our satellite offices. We will get our peer support staff trained up and certified so they can offer services on site that we can bill for, which would bring money into the department. So we're excited about that. And that, I think I've took too long. I apologize, but that's what we've been up to lately. And more to come.
Great. Questions from the board? Comments? Supervisor Crandall?
Yeah, so just one comment or recommendation on the Collier Avenue. Are there any initiatives to prepare for mental health services for on-site mental health patients once that commences? Are you working on that already, or is that something you have planned?
No, yes, there will be an office available Monday through Friday. It's what we call a supportive housing development. So there will be staff on site, and not only behavioral health services and I don't want to speak for any other departments in the county, but our plan is we will have staff on site Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, for anything that folks there need. And we're hoping to get other community organizations involved in that. So
Like the weekends could be.
there will be
covered.
someone on site.
Yeah.
And there will be a property manager on site 24/7.
Will they be trained in like the mental health portion of it?
That's a good question, and hadn't really even thought about that. So
Okay. Thank
I'll
you.
work on that.
Yeah, just throwing it out.
No, that's a great question. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, you know I always ask about the van, and I am just wondering if you have any statistics or success stories from outreach and connection to services, especially for those of us that have big unincorporated districts where the people are far from services. I'm just wondering if you have any of that to share.
I do, but I didn't bring it with me. I
Okay.
apologize for that. But and our hope is, as you may recall, we were able to purchase that van with cannabis funds, and we're sort of hoping that might come around again, so we can get another one. So, but I will certainly come back and provide you with the data that you're asking for.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we have Child Support Services.
Good morning, Board. Gail Woodworth from Child Support Services. So, as you can see by the slide, we've really been technology concentrating this last year. We've done a lot of upgrades to our system because we knew things were coming in the future. And so, along with updating our servers and all of our antivirus kind of things, trying to ensure that we have good mechanisms to keep our information in our system secure, we deployed high-speed scanners to each of the staff, and then that was done in anticipation of our e-filing. So that kind of goes into the next one, which we really we've been working on streamlining our legal processes. And this year was so exciting because we were able to go and start using the state's DocuSign system that works with our child support enforcement system. And then right behind that came e-filing with the courts. And I can say the courts put in a lot of time preparing for us to be able to upload our legal documents and then receive them back into our system. And this whole process it's not just days, it's weeks that those two processes have saved us. In fact, we had one case where a DocuSign went out to one parent, the other parent, and we uploaded it to be filed with the court in less than a half an hour. So when you have parents on board, with a court order, it can go really quickly. And so that we feel is really going to help our efficiencies as we collect child support. So our points of emphasis. So one of the things we continue to work on is opening more cases, and a lot of that has to do with outreach. And so, of course, with COVID, a lot of our outreach simply went away. So we're getting back into that and hope to be out there a lot more this year because people need to know what we can do for them. And people tend to think we're child protective services, and we're not. We're child support services. We establish paternity, child support, and medical support, and then enforce those orders. So the state looked to some of the small counties and saw that we weren't utilizing Facebook and those kind of things. And so the state actually took over and has implemented Facebook, and then we'll be doing Twitter and Instagram, which I know nothing about Twitter and Instagram, so I was happy that they have people on staff. And with our input, they're going to be doing those things for us. And of course, we continue to work on staff development. I think cross-training is vital for the growth of staff and for succession training. The state now has what's called Blackboard, and it has over 270 trainings are available. And then we also use Skillport at LinkedIn, and we have our in-house training. So it keeps us busy.
Thank you. Anything from the board? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And next we have community development.
Good morning. Mireya Turner, Community Development Department. I wanted to take advantage of my 5 to 7 minute slice of the pie to highlight our management team. So I dragged down with me our Chief Building Official, Bill Collins, our Cannabis Program Manager, Andrew Immelung, and perfect timing, our Code Enforcement Manager, Marcus Piltramo. So we're going to kind of tag team our presentation for you today. Starting with building and safety, I'll get out of his way.
Good morning, Bill Collins, Chief Building Official. So the last year, Building and Safety has been working on getting all of our inspectors more certifications. The last year, we've certified each one of our building inspectors in a new discipline and both of our plans examiners. As well, our permitting staff is working to get certifications as well, and we have just recently gotten our first certified permit technician. We also, we got the B-Stakes rating this year, which is a lot of work for our staff. Supposed to help with being able to get some monies through some grants and things like that. Took us, I'd say probably about a month of work. Spent a lot of time working on that, trying to get records, numbers on accurate numbers for the records, things like that. The goals for next year, we still have more certifications we want to get for our permitting staff and for our inspectors. And then we're working to get our records retention set up on Laserfiche. So we've actually sent out for our first bid, and so hopefully by this time next year we will have all of our stuff scanned in that's actually sitting in the office right now, and we'll have a new procedure going to scan intake stuff as it's coming in. Thank you.
So we have a couple accomplishments up there from planning specific to the varied types of trainings that are ongoing for all of our planning staff, as well as establishing a central staff person to watch over the public record act requests and the complaints so that those don't get lost. But what I couldn't fit in there was a little bit about cannabis, so I'm going to pass this over to Andrew.
Hello, I'm Andrew Immelung, the Cannabis Program Manager. I'm going to cover 3 main points. I have a lot of updates, but Mireya kind of told me to keep it concise, so 5 to 7 minutes. So with that said, I'll break it down into 3 parts. The first one concerning our pending applications. We have adopted a few new approaches with our applications, especially concerning our initial studies and our environmental review. We've developed a new template that goes into more detail on all categories that CEQA is concerned with, not just what staff in the past had been focused on areas that we expect to have impacts and where we seek mitigation measures. We're also expanding on areas where we don't expect those impacts, but we're explaining in much more detail why, with the hopes that we'll have much more confident conclusions on our recommendations. In addition to that, working with LACO, we have incorporated peer review on the hydrology reports that we are receiving. They have a hydrogeologist on staff who is able to examine those and provide an expert opinion on each one. So with that said, you know, our conclusions, our recommendations for approval should be much more robust moving forward, as the county has requested. We have completed all of our annual inspections for this year. Our staff did a really great job of getting out there, and for the most part, our approved projects that are operating with just a few minor issues. We have seen a few projects that did have some violations of high severity, and we're exploring whether or not the appropriate course would be a recommendation for revocation of the permit. Moving on to the Cannabis Ordinance Task Force. I have been meeting with each of the task force members to kind of get their feedback on how things are going. Overall, everyone's pretty satisfied. They recognize there was a bit of a slow start in the beginning, but they are pretty happy with the progress and the approach that we are taking now. We are currently concluding recommendations on ag-exempt and temporary structures, and we will next be moving on to address issues on retail sales as requested by this board. Following that, many of the members are looking forward to getting the opportunity to then get back to taking a comprehensive and holistic approach to the overall cannabis ordinance. And finally, we have grants. The planning division and the cannabis program specifically is now overseeing a lot of the deliverables for the LJAG, the Local Jurisdiction Assistant Grant, as well as the equity grant from the DCC, Department of Cannabis Control. With that said, I have been in touch with the California State Auditor. They're going to be conducting an audit for the first time this year on the LJAG, the Local Jurisdiction Assistant Grant. And furthermore, we've had some meetings with DCC concerning the equity grant and the LJAG grant. And one positive note, they are looking for, I guess, different recipients, grantees of the equity grant to highlight those who are making a positive impact. So far, they've only had a few cases from the larger cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles and Oakland. We do have a few candidates in mind, especially with what they're doing in terms of the environment. So we're hoping to be able to highlight some of them, but I won't get into detail because that's still all in the works. So,
I have a question. What does the backlog look like now?
oh, yes. Well, we are currently at, as of my last update with the Planning Commission, the backlog isn't a whole lot different. We are at about 119 pending projects with 2 just recently approved at the last Planning Commission. We've had about 6 withdrawn, and some of the other updates that I wasn't going to, get into the weeds with, but we are taking a kind of a simultaneous processing approach to where we were trying to focus on some of the older projects that have just been kind of hanging around and get those moved forward. Well, there's a reason they're old. They have a lot of issues. There's a lot of things with them that just, keep stalling the project, and, the feasibility of some of those are questionable. So with that, we've kind of divvied it up. We've dedicated a few staff members to get the ball rolling on some of our more recently submitted applications, especially the ones from last year that were submitted. We're noticing the more recent submissions are just, again, more robust applications, and they've learned from past experiences, so they're a little bit easier to move forward.
So we've had a number of recent submissions from 2022?
Well, when I say recent, they're about a year ago.
Okay,
So
that's what I was curious.
we're still addressing, I think we still have a 2019 pending application, which recently finally withdrew because they realized that, the issues around it they were not moving forward. We have a handful that are still left from 2020, and now we're getting into the 2021 and about 20 or so from 2022. So
That's a significant amount of applications for.
it is, yes.
Okay, that's interesting. And then just a follow-up question, how helpful was the satellite software this year?
It played a bigger role in annual inspections and code enforcement. Code enforcement utilizes it for the most part, but with us, we did, out of our 109 approved projects at the time over the growing season this year, we had roughly between 20 and 30 that opted out of cultivating, and another 20 to 30 that requested to reduce their cultivation square footage for their canopy area, and the software was pretty instrumental in determining that, those figures that they were reporting to us were in fact accurate, and it saved a lot of staff time. We didn't have to go out to those locations. We could check via satellite for the outdoor operations.
Okay, great, thanks. Did anyone else have any, Supervisor Green?
Yeah, just very quickly on the backlog. So we do have some newer applications,
yeah.
but just to clarify for everyone, we still have kind of a de facto roadblock in terms of any new applicant must have a water board permit as of whatever that cutoff date is.
Correct, yes. We have discussed this with the task force, or, I'm sorry, were you?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just plow ahead. You're way over 5. So backlog, yes, still a hard stop as far as those people who don't have a water board permit hanging around for 3 years plus.
Sure.
So progress to be made on opening up avenues for new applications.
Yes.
And that's just it. I wanted to highlight, not only is there a backlog, there's a hard stop on new applications unless you have that prerequisite water board permit in place.
That is correct. And of the backlog, I would like to point out of, roughly about 119 at this point pending applications, nearly half of them, I believe 52 at our latest count, are still deemed incomplete. They haven't submitted all the information that we need to move those forward. And our current ordinance doesn't have a mechanism like the state where if in 90 days we don't receive anything or we don't hear back from you in 180 days, they close the project. We don't have a mechanism to do that. So we are, working on approaching, reaching out to these applicants, exhausting every possibility of moving them forward, and then potentially bringing them forward with a denial without prejudice, so they could come and resubmit and pick up where they left off. So that is a big factor. So.
Great.
Yeah, and last thing on that, and don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, and obviously the task force is going to take the work on as it's being presented to them, but I have had anyways some preliminary discussions with California Cannabis Authority, which is a more of a state level organization. They may have some thoughts on how they may be able to assist. I don't want to box anyone in, any staff, including our treasurer tax collectors, to the potential utility of that organization, but I do want to point out that it does exist. And when we get closer to that more 30,000-foot level rewrite of the ordinance, I'd be interested in hearing some feedback on whether that organization might be helpful to us. So thank you for that.
So Marcus is going to come and close us up with the code enforcement accomplishments for this year. Also, you'll note there are a few stats from the Roadmap Task Force. A more robust update will be presented to the board on the Roadmap Task Force in February.
Good morning. My name is Marcus Beltramo. I'm the manager of the Code Enforcement Division. Right now, we have 4 fully certified code enforcement officers. I don't believe the county's had that in the past. And by June, all our code enforcement officers will be fully certified. So we'll have the training. Now everybody will also have the experience. So we're anticipating 2023 will be a better year for code enforcement. We've grown over the last year. We've learned about Lake County. In the code enforcement world, each jurisdiction is different. And Lake County is unique. And so we've learned the uniqueness of Lake County and how to deal with those. So we look to be more proficient moving forward. Also, we're getting mobile printers and laptops. The equipment started to come in. We're starting to install it. We're starting to implement procedures so that we can be more efficient also in code enforcement issues. We've also branched out and formed stronger relationships with our sister departments, environmental health, water resources, for example. We've strengthened that bond. We've learned to work together, and that's also helped us accomplish a lot more. And I think moving forward, as we get better, our sister departments we get better working with our sister departments, we will be more effective moving forward. So our thing is just to get better, get more proficient, more efficient, and 2023, our goal is to resolve all complaints that are received. Another thing is educating the public. What information we need, how to file complaints, how to get in touch with us, and so that we can move forward in trying to attain compliance.
So I want to make sure that the zone of benefit is included in the area.
Oh, I apologize. So the benefit zones, once we work that plan out and we have an understanding, we will be moving forward. That will be a priority. That is something that needs to be done. We've reached out to Mike Ciancio and his crew over there as part of being part of that resolution to moving forward with that program, but that is a priority. So our priority issues, Roadmap Task Force, cannabis, all abandoned vehicles and RVs off the major roadways, and then the benefit zones. Those are our 4 priorities that we're going to be focusing our energy and resources to address those issues.
We could go to the next slide, please. We've already covered the code enforcement section. We'll move on to building. Building already did it too. Go to the next slide. I'm going to close up with planning, the exciting things that were coming this year. Already talked about benefit zones. That is one of our top priorities, and it won't just be code. Any support that I can or planning can lend in that to keep that moving forward is available. We have a number of advanced planning projects scheduled to launch in 2023. The housing element, as you may know, is due at the state by this August, so that's going to be our highest and top priority amongst all of the general plan element and general plan related projects. Additionally, we'll start working on the climate vulnerability analysis. This is the survey that is going to inform our safety element. It'll also touch on the next local hazard mitigation plan through the Office of Emergency Services, and it helps to inform a climate action plan should we decide to launch that sometime soon. We are currently working on a housing-related zoning code update. That should be concluded later on this summer. We are working towards codifying the zoning ordinance in Municode. The county code is currently maintained by Municode Company, which I think they might have changed their name recently, but doesn't matter. Anyway, so and it gets updated on a regular basis. All the ordinances that get adopted that affect the code get sent to them, so that keeps our website updated. This has not included the zoning ordinance ever, as far as I know. And that's why you have like a link to the code, but then you get this other link to the zoning ordinance. It's because it's always been maintained in-house. We're going to work on getting that sent over to Municode so that it will then come up to date and be maintained in a timely manner. And the rest of the year, I think Andrew already covered it. Our task force is going to continue working on cannabis policy review. They've gone over a number of ordinances. Their next focus will be on the retail regulations for review, and so hopefully we'll get something back to you in that soon. I wanted to just close with extending a thanks to the departments that we rely on every day for review of our projects. When I came back, we found that there were a number of systems that had just, with everybody being overworked and so busy and understaffed, a number of our review systems needed a little improvement. And so I am very thankful that the department heads have been so supportive in getting that back, because we really need their input in order to produce a comprehensive discretionary permit. I think that's all I've got. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Crandall?
Just one last question about the area plans. I know that we were looking at that. I don't know if this is, did you say that or did I miss it? Or?
No, I didn't say it.
Oh.
I'm glad you brought it up. So what I'm working on is an RFP that I'll be taking to admin for their review shortly. And we're going to just toss in all the general plan related projects that we have into one big old enchilada and see if we can get a planning company that is staffed well enough to keep our projects moving forward in a very tight timeline. The area plans all must be updated prior to the general plan update to make sure that each community's vision is reflected and synchronized with the overall county vision, which is the general plan. So I don't know if we're going to get started on those area plans this year, but it is definitely within my 5-year plan, all to be done by 2026.
And just to follow up with that, you had mentioned engaging the municipal advisory councils to help with some of the legwork and the beginning work
Yes.
for those area plans.
I have an idea, and I'm not sure if it works out in reality, but right now in my head, it seems really cool. And that is when we get the contractor that's going to work on the area plans to actually sort of develop a checklist. Because a good portion of each area plan actually contains data that isn't vision. It's, this is our community. These are the things, these are what we're highlighting. These are our things of value, our natural assets, things like that. So what I'd like to see the contractor do is assemble a checklist that will help to compile that data for every single area plan. It's going to be pretty standard. And then get those distributed to our town halls and our municipal councils. Because I know that every community is very anxious about getting that area plan started as soon as possible. And so this would give them something that they could do that would then be helpful when we start coming to work on the vision part. We'll see if that works in reality. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Supervisor Green?
Just a quick thank you. Lots of slides, way over 5-7 minutes, but I think that reflects the importance of CDD, and I just want to compliment Director Turner. Since joining, I think she has signaled a sense of stability and a can-do attitude, and after years and years of several bumps in the road and stuff like that. I'm very excited to see the current direction that CDD is under, and excited to see more coming in 2023, if only because I know in addition to everything on your slides, there may be 1 or 2 or 12 other subjects coming to you that were not anticipated. So I appreciate everything you put in here so far, and buckle up, because I imagine 23 is going to be even busier than what has been presented here. So,
Thank you. Thank you. And I welcomed everybody's questions. I didn't count that in my 5 to 7 minutes, so I think I was pretty close. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And next we have County Council.
All right, well, thank you. Anita Grant, County Council. It's always difficult for County Council's office to point to a list of accomplishments simply because our accomplishments are assisting other departments. Some of those matters remain confidential. Some of those matters became very involved, and it doesn't seem appropriate to point out, well, this department we had to work with for 6 months, and et cetera. So we don't do that. We tend to be quiet about our involvement. But you will see under this slide that there are numerous accomplishments, which I've just done by doing very bland statistics in terms of the type of work we do. A county council's office is a generalist office, so we are involved in almost everything. And we draft contracts, we draft ordinances, resolutions, we review contracts, ordinances, and resolutions. And those reviews are not simply signing my name or signing a deputy's name on the bottom of the page. Oftentimes that requires a great deal of work. There are legal requirements, there are issues with regard to compliance issues with various grants, et cetera, all of which we have to review and assist the departments with. In terms of just numbers of contracts, I've stated about 700 for last year. That's in addition to all the other work I do, the office does as a whole. Generally, I've been doing the documents because I think 12-hour days are normal, but the issues with regard to land use, we've got, I think, all of my staff, legal staff. We have one attorney, Nicole Johnson, who focuses on that primarily, and she's excellent, but all the attorney staff have a very good and solid understanding of land use so that we can pitch hit for each other. We found that to be very important both in juveniles and probates as well, because for about half a year last year, my attorney staff was reduced by half. So for us, that's the same as if your staff in any large department, just 50% of them were gone because people moved on to other things. We also were without a risk person for approximately 8 months in 21, 22, and we had lost one of our administrative assistants for clerical several years ago. Your board was very good to give another position of attorney staff, which will be the first addition to attorney staff in 30 years. Actually 31 years, it might be longer, but I only know 31 because that's how long I've been here. You'll see we're very busy with juvenile dependencies, which are abused and neglected children, a very important area of law, 25 probate and conservatorships, and complex projects. By those, I mean those projects that require ongoing commitment of months, sometimes years, to bring to fruition with departments. So that is what we accomplish. Again, a thumbnail sketch without going into detail. Your board generally knows everything we're doing, so certainly the information isn't lost on you, but again, the confines of confidentiality make it a little difficult for me to feel comfortable going into detail. As far as points of emphasis, as you know, I'm going to be retiring in a couple of months, so I don't really have major points of emphasis other than getting staff ready for that. Also, points of emphasis for us depend upon what your board and departments move forward, because our office assists, helps, advises, counsels on all of those areas. We don't generally self-generate. We provide information to your board. One of the things I'll do before I leave is giving you some information on Brown Act updates and the Brown Act itself. We'll also be the office will be bringing a number of things to the board over the next couple of months that will hopefully set the stage for future actions. And again, I mentioned Nicole, and I'm sitting here realizing that I have left out several lawyers, Lloyd Guentavano, who's the senior deputy, as well as Carlos Torres, who's handling probates, conservatorships, and anything else you throw at him. Alik Orfelian, who is handling the juvenile cases and has a great passion for the work, but she's hopefully just as passionate about all the other assignments that she has to do, because again, in our office, one of the most important things is to be able to pivot. So, and we do that. I will say that when it comes to recruitment issues, the thing that my office focuses on, and I would think other offices may want to, is that 2 years, 3 years of experience in this county council's office gives you a scope and breadth of experience that it would take you 10, maybe 15 years in a larger government office, because you tend to be pigeonholed. Here we can't afford to pigeonhole anyone, so all of us can do pretty much anything.
Thank you, Anita. Any other comments from the board? Supervisor Green?
Yeah, thank you. Before joining the board, I work with DSS CWS and managed to attend many of our juvenile dependency court hearings virtually, and it's an important job, and it was news to me that it was part of county counsel's office. And so I want to highlight the hiring of Alik as a dedicated counsel for juvenile dependency to be a major accomplishment. I have seen lots of pivoting before her hire, and I imagine more pivoting will happen. But I just want to highlight the vital importance of the juvenile dependency process. I appreciate the work that's been done to solidify county counsel's contributions to that. I hope part of that will be advocacy to systemic change. I think part of the difficulties I saw during my time there was just there aren't enough court days, there aren't enough attorneys. So just as the county counsel's office needed to dedicate resources, I hope the Superior Court and those people that are tasked with making sure that the juvenile dependency process runs smoothly as a whole will be sensitive to the concerns that Lake County has. We need more court days, and that's it. Thank you very much for everything you've done. We'll do the little happy dance for your retirement later on, but everything that your office does has been spot on, high quality work, no matter what I've seen, no matter the subject. Thank you so much for your contributions.
Thank you very much, Supervisor. And other than when we were drastically reduced by staff, people don't necessarily stay for 20, 30 years anymore. They'll leave after 4 or 5 years, which is to be expected. But we've always had an attorney dedicated to juvenile. I think that, again, over the last couple of years, because of staff shortages, there was more pivoting than the office had ever experienced before, and certainly not something that we want to continue. So we'll continue with that dedicated.
Supervisor Crandall?
Well, definitely won't be doing a happy dance because you've covered so much since I've been in the position, and I appreciate everything you've done as a quarterback for that office, and I think the 49ers could have used you this last weekend.
All right, thank you, Anita. And next, we have District Attorney's Office.
Good morning. So, let's see, there's my slides. I think I'm the only one that did color. I spent a lot of time on that. So, accomplishments, of course, successfully prosecuted several high-profile murder cases that resulted in significant prison commitments, and that includes not only a trial that lasted several weeks, but also settlements that resulted in a very, very significant terms, but also in every case that we settle, especially in murder cases or attempted murder cases or any crimes of violence. We reach out to the victims and make sure that they understand why we're doing what we're doing and that they are okay with what we're doing. Sometimes they're not really happy, but they understand why we have to settle certain cases, whether it's, lack of being able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt certain cases because of evidentiary issues. But the good news is that our caseload for pending murder cases has been drastically reduced. And I hope not to have new ones, but that's beyond my control. So we have a mental health court now, and this is new with the courts, started last year, I believe. And our focus is, obviously, we attend those, that court hearing. We advocate for the protection of the victim's rights and to make sure that if there is going to be an individual is going to go into mental health court, that the victims is protected with a protective order, that that the cases are monitored so that if there is a violation, it's brought back right away as soon as possible. We're still working on that because there's still some procedures that the court is working through. We are there to serve the victims, though, and our priority is community safety. We are, obviously, our victim witness office is part of the DA's office, and we provided victim services in 2022 to 1,443 victims and family members. And that is an increase of, in 2022, that's an increase of pre-pandemic numbers of 892 in 2019. So it's significant increase. And our staff did a phenomenal job of assisting these individuals from going to court with them, victims, going to court through arraignments, from arraignments to motion hearings to sentencing, where the victim has a support person there for them, and they can call victim witness and ask questions about the process of the case, and so the victim witness advocates are so important. We also conducted 58 forensic interviews of children at our Hope Center, and these are so important because it's a safe space for these children to talk about what is the worst thing that has ever happened to them. And we have a phenomenal forensic interviewer whose experience has been doing a lot of these and does a great job. So I'm happy that we were able to do that. We also included in that number, we've done a couple of interviews for agencies outside of Lake County, cases outside of Lake County, and then they have, other counties have done some forensic interviews of victims who have moved to another county. So in 2023, this is an ongoing theme with every department, but we continue to recruit full-time to fill positions and provide training and experience to develop happy and satisfied employees. And I think that we have been able, in 2022, we hired 2 deputy DAs and other personnel. We emphasize the experience that an individual get when they come to Lake County in the DA's office, especially deputy DAs. They're going to be in court right away. We emphasize the fact that If you're in a bigger department, you're probably going to be doing motions and not get to court very often. We emphasize that. We have a new deputy starting in mid-February, so I'm excited about that. But we need to continue to recruit, and I am going to try to set up a partnership program with some local, not local, but some of the surrounding law schools to try to increase recruitment for Lake County. We continue to work and will work with law enforcement, with the new sheriff, the new chief of Clear Lake Police Department, and of course, Lakeport Police Department chief and CHP and Fish and Wildlife. So we have a good relationship with all those departments. We are going to look into upgrading our case management system in order to keep better statistics that are going to be required by the state in 5 or 6 years, but we need to work towards that. I also want to upgrade our management system so we're more easily can file things with the courts. They switched over to a new court system, so we want to try to be more compatible with them. And so that's going to be an ongoing thing, not just in 2023, but 2024 and 2025 to get the right system in place. And we will continue to work with mental health court, and maybe I would suggest to the courts meetings, monthly or quarterly meetings, so we can get those procedures down faster. That if somebody's going to go into mental health court, that's done quicker than later, so that there's not a big delay in terms of those individuals getting into court, especially when you're dealing with mental health. They need services right away. They need to be under the court's direction quicker, and also for the victims, they need to know that that's going on so they're not left hanging in terms of what's going on with that case. So that is my presentation, and I will take some questions.
Supervisor Crandall?
Yes, I wanted to emphasize one of the bullets that say work with law enforcement to make our neighborhoods cleaner and safer. And I know you've been to some meetings with me with some neighborhood watches and in dealing with meth, of course. And I know a lot of state laws are intact that hinder or handcuff both you and the sheriff's department. But just wanted to highlight that a lot of the drug houses are connected. Meth is the root contributor to dumping cars, RV, catalytic converters, occupying homes illegally, public nuisance, theft, code violations, and an overwhelming burden to your department and law enforcement, which, once they're let out, it's recidivism. So I really want to work to assist any way we can, in any type of legislation on our end that can help give you anything. I know I've talked with code enforcement on different angles to try and, I think one of the things is when anyone's dealing with nuisances as such, making them uncomfortable as well. I know that a lot of it stems from mental health, so I just highlight it because I know it's a lofty situation, but I want to do what I can to help because it's really a big deal, and I know in my district and others. But I found different areas. That's why I got the flock cameras where they're connected in different towns. They go to different areas. So just letting you know, I really want to work with you and the sheriff's department and getting some of this at least in a position where we can start from or something like that. So I don't know what you have in mind yet, but I think maybe we should set something up to try. And I know the task force is something that's intact, but,
Right.
So just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you. And definitely, I agree. We could, definitely should meet. And I am a member of the task force, and I'm looking forward in this new year to continue with that, as well as you know, obviously, the whole of Lake County needs to have changes, and so that we can abate places that are, you know, clean up places, so we can get people to come and visit Lake County. It's as a safe place, a beautiful place. It is a beautiful place here.
Right.
So,
and I think too, it's just the meth situation, they get let right out, you know, and so if there's something else we can work on to charge some of these folks with, of course, we have to have the burden of proof. A lot of communities are willing to work to provide that, of course, if it's unbiased, but, you know, I just think that those are the angles that need to be used in order to, you know, slow it down, if that makes sense, because then keeping them in a position where they have to get sober and, you know, look at other things.
there's a lot of issues involved there, including the, you know, the changes in the law in regards to individuals. A lot more individuals are being released once they're picked up, maybe even on warrants, even if they've failed to appear previous times. A lot of them because of the changes in the law and case law in regards to keeping people in custody on bail, especially for just possession of drug cases. That's one big issue that maybe we can work together to try to figure out how to deal with that, because it is very frustrating when you have individuals who commit not only possession of drugs for sale, but also the other associated petty crimes such as theft, vandalism, other things that we try to keep individuals in custody on those, but we can't. And then they commit new offenses once they're out. So even before they have gotten to court on their first case, they already have committed a new case. So,
right. And that's where it's at, yeah.
Yeah.
I just know that a lot of community members are in a position where they're like, they know that our DA's office and law enforcement is their hands are tied. So they're like, well, we only have ourselves to deal with it now. And so it's like getting close to that. And I just see what we can do in order to prevent that. So,
right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Green?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate this report and the highlighting the mental health court, but there's other specialty courts too. There's a drug diversion court, there's veterans court. And so a question doesn't need to be answered now, but the way state law tracks now in these various specialty courts, challenges implementing a mental health court. We have care court coming down the road in a year or two. So one, very creative, and I'm glad to see the state take these adaptive measures for dealing with some of these difficult issues. Two, I don't know how much additional workload and how the changing standards of these various specialty courts create for the DA's office and our not public defenders, but our contract defenders. It's a lot. And so you mentioned like there may be quarterly meetings with the courts and stuff like that, but I'm looking for opportunities here, whether from the DA or through some meetings with the courts, to give us kind of a report card of where we're at. Because again, just tracking back the dependency works as best as it might given the circumstances, but still room for improvement in my very amateur post, having worked with that. Similarly, we may have room for growth in these specialty courts, but without us tracking up there and observing things in very case-specific ways, it's hard for us to get a feel for how well things are working. But I suspect they might be similar to juvenile dependency cases. There may not be enough days, there may not be enough attorneys. Definitely, there's not enough judges to keep things rolling smoothly at all times. So whether it's through your office directly or if it's through some partnership with the Superior Court, I'd love to hear more about it and more often about how these various specialty courts are working and what challenges you may be facing in that. So thank you.
Great. Okay.
And I just have one more question. Each year we talk about illegal cannabis, environmental crimes, and I was just wondering what your plans are for this year, if there's going to be anything different, if anything that you can share with us.
Well, we continue to prosecute illegal cannabis grows and law enforcement goes in, eradicates, and brings us the case, we continue to file those. Those are mostly misdemeanors unless we have sufficient environmental crimes that we can prove to charge a felony. But we are continuing to prosecute those cases because it's important. If you have an individual who has two possession for sale of marijuana or two cultivation cases, convictions, then the third time can be a felony. So it's important to continue to prosecute those. Obviously, it's not only, even if we can't charge environmental crimes, it is an environmental issue with those illegal grows. So we will continue to pursue those, and we do have several cases that involve environmental crimes that are still pending. Sometimes those take a long time to make its way through the court, especially if it's going to go to trial. It's competing with other violent crimes. But we do continue to prosecute those.
Thank you. Okay. I think we're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. And Health Services is next. Of course. And thank you for coming in during your leave time.
Good morning, board. Good morning, community and partners, peers. So, the health department is going through an organizational transition. As we are aware, there was a thing called COVID-19 that disrupted health departments globally, but especially here in Lake County. And we're not out of the woods yet. COVID-19 is still here, prevalent. And our goal is to look into the future, right? What does it look like to shift, but still maintain? And so in this presentation, I'll outline some of our accomplishments and where we look forward to going to into the upcoming years. But first, we're halfway through the agenda for today, so I figured I'd throw out a cool glow. I have been on leave taking care of my newborn son, and I got a call from Mary, who was a labor and delivery nurse who was responsible for delivering my mother here in Lakeport. And she called to say congratulations for my son who was delivered here in Lakeport. So I'm seeing a generational trend here. So we'll see what happens with my son. But I always appreciate calls like that from the community. So without further ado, I would like to highlight some roles that we filled in 2022. Like most departments, filling positions has been quite difficult, but I think it's the resiliency and grit of the staff at the health department to fill positions that we've been able to accomplish this list. So we've been able to hire an interim health officer, Dr. Carl Spohr. We just hired a director of nursing, promoted a deputy of health service, and promoted a deputy of public health. Hired epidemiologists, a health equity coordinator, promoted a health service manager, and hired a health services administrative manager. Pretty proud of that list for my staff and my team. Meaningful partnerships and development. Recently, geomedical services, WellPath, we were able to accomplish a $3.9 million contract to provide geomedical services. Now, this isn't done in isolation. This is done in collaboration with the Sheriff's Office, Social Services, and Behavioral Health. It hints on Mr. Metcalf's CalAIM initiative. We're looking at whole person RAP care to look at recidivism. How do we reduce that while still providing health so that when someone gets discharged, they're able to get full scope services to provide them the resources they need to be and continue to be a resilient and contributing member to our society. a license agreement with the city of Lakeport, something that many of us and many of you have experienced are hazardous events, fires, floods, quakes. We're always looking at how we meet and support all partnering agencies and people, especially those who are ADA. So this emergency medical respite center that we are looking to develop is going to provide a space for people who need potentially charging stations, places to go for electricity, the opportunity to have a space, a dedicated space, where they can come get those much needed services. So if they have, for example, electric wheelchair, they can come charge it there if their electricity is down at their house. Same with breathing apparatuses, ventilators, etc. It'll do a couple things. It will hopefully provide a safety net, but also provide a place for our first responders and our hospitals to be able to send people if they, God forbid, become at capacity and don't have the necessary resources to be able to provide that care. Something that I'm looking at is eCornell online courses for residents and staff. And virtual learning seems to be a new trend, not only at universities, city colleges, but even for our staff. And providing an opportunity for public health education or CEUs, credits for whether it be community or staff to get public health knowledge, administrative knowledge, tech knowledge, what have you. Really leveraging eCornell to be able to provide those services. UC Davis and our DEI programming, annual programming for our staff, diversity, equity, inclusion, that's important, and I'll hit on it on the next slide. An expansion of our California Children's Services, also known as CCS, Diagnostic and Treatment Services, which I'll also elaborate how we're going to just really quick one, you don't have to go back, but about meaningful partnerships. I just want to give appreciation to Hope Rising, Executive Director Justin Gaddy, for our CHIP and CHNA initiative that we're working on, Behavioral Health Social Services for their commitment and collaboration to wrap services in CalAIM, and our Fire Department, Sheriff's Office, and Police Department for public safety and their collaboration to put an emphasis on health safety. So, now moving into further accomplishments. I referenced in the beginning organizational restructuring. What does that mean? It's very broad. But something that we're looking at is how do we give back time, right? How do we advance systems so that our staff can focus on what we're here for, which is community health, right? Treating the people. And so implementing a new electronic health record system, the team has been amazing at finding and executing an RFP and finding valuable solutions to improve efficiency and financial integrity. So it's timely, cost-effective, and gives back time to our staff so they can engage with community. Looking at that with our environmental health and our overall program. Another accomplishment would be our MOOC, our Medical Health Operations Area Coordination Manual. Several pages, the board has it, it's pretty dense, but it's how do we work together with our fire department, sheriff, social services, behavioral health, to address mutual aid so that we're not working in isolation, but we're working in collaboration. Again, that looks at cost effectiveness, time management, again, to ensure that we are communicating effectively so that the most important people, our residents, receive the care that they need. One of the choke points that we as a team established is if we're going to continue to have our department and county be as desirable as possible, which it is, we need to make sure that our onboarding processes and procedures for our health department and our staff are seamless. So when people come into our department and into our county, they know where to go, where the great places are to eat, where the great hikes are, how to log in, log out, and navigate the system so that when there is an issue or need for a staff member, they have direct sources on where to go to get that, and they don't have to spend a lot of time in ambiguity trying to figure that out. So our team has put together very detailed onboarding policy procedure that's going through several levels of accreditation so that when a new staff member comes on board, they have all the resources and tools that they need to navigate our health system. And just to highlight the general accomplishments around health, COVID-19, monkeypox, RSV, and influenza response for our team in partnership with county CBOs and stakeholders has been top tier, and I'm really proud of the team and the community for stepping up to address that. So, looking at 2023 and beyond, this isn't just a goal that we're looking at for this year. We're looking at this to be a staple for our department. Some of you may and some of you may not know that the APHA, American Public Health Association, and AMA, the American Medical Association, they consider racism as a public health emergency. And so understanding that and the importance of just the fundamental basic care that we need to look past external and look internal. Anyone who has a heart needs to be served. We're really trying to ensure that we place focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And when I say internally and externally, a standard for our staff and our service of care. And that's acknowledging that cultural competencies and health disparities as they relate to health outcomes and how they relate to the workplace. This is really important to me, and I believe it's important to the board and the community that we put diversity, equity, and inclusion as our foundation on which we build, because all staff and all community, they should be able to come to a place, especially for health, that they feel seen, heard, and valued. So continuing to improve our onboarding processes and procedures and provide peer and professional relationship building for our staff will be a top priority. And I'm confident actually, that this will increase staff cohesion and amplify our shared purpose and vision and mission. And partner and build with on community-based harm reduction coalition. Mr. Metcalf referenced a mobile van that goes out to provide service of care, and we have and are in discussions around how we can coordinate with our health department to provide a spoke of care in that to address morbidity and mortality, and leverage CalAIM to address health disparities, improve service delivery for whole person care, and really focusing on partnerships and community-based organizations.
Okay, questions or comments? All right, I think that's it. Thank you
Great.
so much.
Thank you.
And should we take a break? A 5-minute break? Yeah. Yep. Okay, so we will come back at 11:51. I mean 10:51. Sorry. come back here and start with information technology.
Well, good morning, Board. I'm Shane French with Information Technology. This year, as far as accomplishments, I would say the most visible accomplishment to both the public and to staff is going to be the new website and content management system. We finished up that project about a month ago in total. You know, the big motivation for that project was to allow departments to more easily update their content on the site. Obviously, the old site needed a redesign. It was getting pretty old. But you know, the thing that I heard from a lot of departments was, hey, you know, it's very difficult to update the site, and that's really important in terms of messaging to the public. And you know, updated content is becoming more and more critical every day as we go forward. So I think you know, that was an important project for us and for departments. You know, departments now are able to get in there and update and keep their content fresh, and so that's been a really good thing. We did a lot of work to secure county information resources, always doing that. Obviously, it's becoming more and more critical every day that we respond and really be proactive about threats that are coming to us every day in the cybersecurity space. You know, I have on there continued support of secure network access. So obviously we have a lot of folks working remotely, have since COVID-19. You know, that continues to be an area where we really need to make sure that we have our due diligence done in terms of making sure that these resources are secure as well, because obviously you have folks working from home. It's basically completely outside our firewall, and so it's important that we employ advanced tactics to make sure that that every device that's connected to our network, no matter where it's connected from, is secured appropriately. Another, you know, I guess, project that I'm really excited about, you guys have heard a few people talk about the Laserfish system this year. Departments are starting to use that. This is a platform for not only document storage and retention, management, life cycle management of documents, all tools we've maybe had bits and pieces of in places, but never had a complete solution. We kind of have a complete solution now, and I think that's really exciting. And departments are starting to leverage that, and I think as we learn more and more about that, you know, you're going to see a lot of growth there in terms of our you know, document management strategy, you know, maturity. I think that's going to be an important piece for a lot of departments. The other thing that's really great about that is it does allow for you know, a lot of workflow management. You know, we have a lot of different disparate tools on our network that allow departments to do things, but a lot of them don't talk to each other. And so it's nice to have something out there that will allow us to have processes that allow departments to collaborate more easily between the departments. As far as points of emphasis, you know, obviously, I'm always kind of harping on the information security piece. It's just becoming a bigger and bigger part of the job of being an IT department. The threats that we face are just increasing, I would say, moment by moment. So we really put a lot of focus there. As far as, you know, I would say the biggest part of our job is the one that might not be as visible, which again is just supporting departments in their initiatives. That's where the majority of our time is spent, because that's where the demands come. So we like to obviously prioritize those projects that departments have. And of course, just as I mentioned, you know, obviously we want to expand that use of electronic workflows. You know, we started doing quite a lot of that during the beginning of the pandemic. And it's become quite the norm, I think, for departments now. And I think, you know, we're just seeing more and more of it. And I just think that, you know, having the right tools is just going to be a game changer for the county, and I think I'm really excited about that. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Comments? Supervisor Green?
Yeah, just thank you for highlighting the Laserfish and mentioning the workflows. Exciting to hear some departments are starting to leverage that. Workflows don't invent themselves. The software isn't going to do that. It's going to be the department heads and staff kind of working on, oh, we have this brand new storage system. What do we do with it? But I think continued diligence in doing that will be important. One thing you and I discussed during the orientation, not really highlighted here, is one, this ongoing need, constant drumbeat for security, and yet this kind of increasing accommodation, if you will, for personal devices and stuff like that. I think we'll probably have some, hopefully, room in the coming year to talk about that. We absolutely are facing very critical threats to our cyber infrastructure, phishing, spear phishing for officials now, I've found out. But something has to give. So I do think there's probably a little bit of a disconnect and strong emphasis on security on our desktop platforms, but an unfortunate reliance on personal devices in the actual execution of our daily duties, depending on department. So just wanted to emphasize that. And with that, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more.
I just wanted to highlight. Sorry. I just wanted to highlight, and I'm not sure if it's been put out, but there was an email from last week from one of the state representatives, and I won't go too far into it, but the main paragraph that I loved hearing was, I've attended my share of BOS meetings in other counties, and Lake County stands out as being organized, intelligent, aware, engaged, and clearly there to serve the people. In addition, that you managed to keep everything running smoothly on Zoom and in person, it is stunning. This may all seem normal to you, but if you attend meetings in other counties, you will see that Lake County is at a higher level than most. And so I just want to highlight that because I know your department helps. Of course, I know Sam plays a big role. And so I don't know if you were able to, be told about that, but I just wanted to, say that to you. So,
Well, I really do appreciate that. And, I think Sam and Jake, my department actually, they both do such a great job with the meetings, and they really put all this together. And, like that individual mentioned, it doesn't work super great in a lot of places. So it really speaks a lot. And we just don't have the budget that those other counties tend to have. So, yeah, I really think that's well deserved.
Yet we're still above and beyond.
Yeah. So, do more with less.
Thank you, Shane. Okay, next, library.
Take a seat if that's okay.
Come and join us.
So I'm Christopher Beach, County Librarian, and the library has accomplished so much in 2022, and we plan to do so much more in 2023, but I boiled it down to these highlights. So in 2022, use of the library increased. Total checkouts of materials, both digital and physical books and other items, was 213,980. And for physical materials, the library had 155,895 checkouts, which is a 12% increase compared to the prior year. And we also have digital checkouts continue to grow, and we had 58,085 checkouts in 2022. So that's a continuing larger share of our checkouts, but physical materials grows as well. So this increase in use is due in part to the resources and work put into refreshing and revitalizing the library collection, both with funding from your board and all the work of library staff to ensure the library collection of materials is relevant and appealing to Lake County. Also, with library use increasing, attendance at library events has also increased, almost tripling from the year before. In 2022, the library hosted over 550 events with an attendance of over 9,500. So these are programs for children and adults, but the most popular programs are for children, such as our weekly story times and Lego clubs, among others. So children's events really have the highest attendance at the library, but we have something for everyone. Also during 2022, we, with the support of a grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, we launched Books by Mail and started lending Wi-Fi hotspots. So Books by Mail provides increased access to the library for homebound residents, and this ensures that every resident of Lake County, regardless of their transportation, is able to use the library and receive physical materials through the mail. And we also started lending those Wi-Fi hotspots so members of the public can visit their local library and check out a Wi-Fi hotspot and take it home to access the internet, which has been very much in demand at our library branches. We also, in other library of things besides just books, we bought and lend additional Chromebooks to the public, and we have state park passes that people can check out a park pass to visit our state park for free. We also expanded our seed lending library from just Middletown to every branch of the library, so residents can check out seeds, grow them, and then save the seeds and return them to the library for other people to check out. And we also secured a number of grants in 2022, which we'll be working on in 2023. So in spring 2022, the library secured a grant from the state for mobile library access, which will help us purchase a customized Sprinter van to serve as a bookmobile and outreach vehicle. And that should be here in March of 2023, very soon, if everything goes correctly. The library also won a grant to conduct a National Endowment for the Arts Big Read program, which is a federal grant. And this will occur starting in February 2023. Our first event is this Friday, so go to lakecountybigread.com for our whole schedule of events that will occur during February and March. And we also won funds through the California State Library Building Forward Library Infrastructure Program. We've been awarded over $1 million for capital improvements at our library branches. Those projects will occur over a number of years, and this will fund projects such as adding solar panels to our 3 largest branches. If you want to move on to slide 3, throughout the upcoming year, our goals are to work on those grants to bring those additional resources to Lake County. As I mentioned, the bookmobile will be arriving this year, and we'll begin to work closely with Lake County Public Services and other departments to address the projects at the library facilities in accordance with that grant plan. And we also want to continue work on our library collection to ensure we have the books and other materials that Lake County residents need in the format that they prefer, whether that's physical or digital. We're really committed to those goals of the board's 2028 priorities, and I really look forward to playing our part in moving Lake County forward in 2023. Thank you.
So you make libraries exciting, and there are comments out there questioning the relevance of libraries in our communities. But as we've gone through the pandemic, we have come to understand that they are communication hubs and they are centers of our communities. And the work that you and your team does to keep them relevant is so critical. And my family is a big library user. We use all of the digital platforms, and we go check out books, and we wait for them to. So I just really appreciate that we have been able to adapt and thrive. And our communities are definitely reaping the benefits of all this innovation that you and your team have brought to our library system.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. So next we have probation.
Good morning. I'm Wendy Monfranz, the Chief Probation Officer, and the Probation Department had a successful 2022. We have a department full of employees dedicated to public safety and helping people change their lives. And one of our accomplishments this year was something we called Resilient Reentry. We worked with Woodland College to put together an all-day event where over 100 people in the community who were either justice involved or formerly justice involved to find resources such as education, job hunting, and expunging their records. We had inspirational speeches, food, and it was a great event that we plan on doing annually with Woodland College, and we're working with Mendocino College to do one on this side of the lake. We also, during the summer, put on our Exploring Horizons summer program for juvenile youth involved, and we had 10 youth visit community college campuses, Sonoma State. They went to Job Corps. They had a visit with CAL FIRE. They went zip lining. They went on the lake. They went kayaking. And it's something we've done for, I think, 6 years now. And it teaches the kids that are involved with us that there are other things to do besides committing crimes. Our third accomplishment was we created a new division in our adult unit, and it's called the pretrial unit. We contracted with the Superior Court to supervise those people who are released while pending trial, and we report back to the court on their progress. Most are ordered on electronic monitoring, and we supervised 80 individuals during 11 months of the year, and we wrote 175 court reports related to the pretrial program. And our accomplishment that our department did was we raised more canned foods for the animal food drive than any department ever has. We had, I think it was over 1,000 canned food that were donated by our staff, and we were pretty excited about that. This next year, our biggest goal is to recruit more probation officers. We have been trying different ways to do that, creating videos, going to different sites on the internet, and actually networking. We get a new employee and try to get them to find their friends to come apply. So that's our goal there. We are also starting leadership training of our staff with the Dare to Lead program, and we've hired a facilitator to come and begin our succession planning so the new leaders, the younger ones that are in our department can start moving forward. We have 2 grant opportunities that we're pursuing right now. The first is a mobile probation services center that will be a van similar to that behavioral health uses to reach those that are on supervised release that are homeless, and we can also use it at community events, and we should know if we receive that grant in April. And the last one is working with the Vera Foundation to end girls' incarceration grant. And right now, the past 5 years, our girls' incarceration for juveniles is about 30%, and the goal of Vera is to reduce that to 0. They started in Santa Clara County and reduced it to 0 long-term, and they have an average of about 2 in custody in Santa Clara after working with them. So it's our goal to do the same and receive that grant. Thank you.
Wendy, welcome.
Thank you.
We're delighted to have you with us
Thank
for
you.
this year. Do we have comments from the board? Not at this time? Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And next, we have public services.
All right. Well, good morning. Lars Ewing, Public Services Director. To highlight the accomplishments from 2022, the first bullet point, I believe is up there, infrastructure management of over 100 county-owned buildings, a couple of dozen parks, and project delivery of over 1,500 projects. That's the first bullet point. It's focused on parks and buildings and grounds. Really, the emphasis there is the about 24 men and women that are out there handling these day-to-day, just the upkeep, the maintenance, the repair, the improvements at these projects. The bulk of what we do is not by contract. Maybe what is outwardly seen is by contract, but the men and women that we have working are exceptional, and that's where I wanted to start. A few of the examples from capital projects that really get the highlight because it's above and beyond the vacuuming and the making sure that the toilets are flushing. A few little projects, remodels at elections and auditor controller. In this building, a courthouse fire alarm upgrade. Roofs on 4 different buildings, one that is in progress here on this building. Parking lots, about a half a dozen this year, numerous HVAC replacements around the county. So that highlights some of the projects that we did. The next bullet point there is countywide building energy audit and building condition assessments. That was a big push, 2 separate pushes, but they are interrelated. The energy audit identified that in a very unique situation that our county buildings would not qualify for something that these companies would do for an energy savings contract. And that emphasizes the work that our staff have done, their forward thinking to get LED lights put in, to get more energy efficient HVAC systems put in. So that's a testament to their expertise. The building condition assessments, that will be the basis of developing a maintenance management program. Essentially, it's taking the data from that evaluation and putting it on paper for what a management plan will be rather than just institutional knowledge. So that really is going to be the springboard for that maintenance management plan. The next bullet point, Parks, Recs, and Trails Strategic Master Plan that is in development last week. I intended to give an update to the board, but the board meeting went long. That'll be going on next week, so you'll receive an update there. But that Strategic Master Plan is in development. And kind of related to that, the next bullet point there, a feasibility study for multi-jurisdiction recreation center is ongoing. That is in concert with the two cities and other school districts around the county. Efforts are continuing, and I'll be coming to the board to present that next week. The next bullet point, landfill and diversion operations. So essentially landfill. Talking about the landfill operations, similar to what I said about the county buildings and grounds and park staff, the bread and butter of what happens at the landfill is what happens every single day. Those 6 landfill operators and 2 weighmasters, we've handled about, they have handled 55,000 tons of waste from over 50,000 individual vehicle trips. So those are very big numbers. Those are normal numbers. Trash doesn't stop, and they keep going. Diversion means we're trying to keep out of the landfill what shouldn't be in there. A few highlights there, mattresses, over 7,500 mattresses taken in and recycled, and that's a relatively new program that we signed up for. Tires, nearly 8,000. Oil, 10,000 gallons of oil and about 5,000 filters. These are round numbers, but it just emphasizes the need to keep out of the landfill what shouldn't be in there so that not only can we save the life of the landfill, we can maximize the resources, the finite resources that we have. The last bullet point up here, museums. Museum exhibits and tours, both physical and virtual. We may think of the museums as a place to go physically, which they certainly are. In-person visits, we had nearly 5,000 in-person visits among the 3 museums. But something that you may not be aware of, and we need to emphasize this more, and that'll be one of the points of emphasis for next year. But the digital exhibits that we have nearly, I believe there's nearly 24 digital exhibits that are available, and they have individual visits of over 7,500 last year. So that's those are our small little staff at the museums. They've created those digital exhibits, and they're very high quality. I encourage you to take a look at those. So looking ahead at the points of emphasis for next year, broke it down into the 4 general divisions that we have. So facilities, projects. That's the all-encompassing point of emphasis, project delivery. I highlighted a few, 2 that are kind of the bigger projects. One is the Armory conversion. The other is a courthouse campus parking lot solar array. So those are in the project development stages, and others. There are plenty of others that I could go on a laundry list of. But I also included in there deferred maintenance. I believe I did. There it is. So deferred maintenance. There are we actually have some funding from the board for deferred maintenance, so that is progressing. A few projects maybe to also highlight: jail generator and security electronics is in progress. Roofs, I mentioned the courthouse is in progress, but we have about 6 other roof replacements this year. Other projects were already mentioned: behavioral health at their South Shore facility, libraries, numerous projects there. So it's a very accelerated project delivery that we're hopeful for. Public Services has really ramped up our project staff. I don't mean the construction staff. I mean the project management staff. Historically, that was handled outside of Public Services. We have built that up, and I hope to have some support to build that up even further, because the projects are not slowing down. Parks and trails, improvement projects and planning for the future. A few projects that I wanted to highlight. One, I touched on the master plan. That continues. Here in the next month, we will be coming to the board with an update on the status of that master plan. A few other projects that I wanted to highlight: Lucerne Harbor dredging, John Klaus Regional Park, the development for that new 600-plus acre property that the county just accepted the assets. So we're progressing there. Parks and Trails in Cobb, Lakeside County Park improvements, as well as Upper Lake and Kelseyville, and also a grant that we received from Caltrans Clean California, about a $1.3 million grant for improvements at about a dozen parks around the county, as well as a $400,000 grant from the state for improvements at Lakeside Park. So last, well, second to last bullet point here, landfill, expansion construction. That is, we're going to be hitting a milestone. We are waiting on our final permit, and we'll be putting the construction documents, just putting the final touches on that, putting it out to bid. So we anticipate, middle to end of this year going to construction on phase 1 for that landfill expansion. We also have a hopeful partnership with RCRC, the Environmental Services JPA, for that, for a partnership on a grant application that we hope to bring in about $500,000 for diversion work toward keeping even additional material out of the landfill. Lastly, museums. The emphasis there is on marketing, really increasing the amount of marketing that we're doing, not just here locally, but outside of the county to advertise what the museums are, both physically and virtually. And lastly there, the Pomo Gallery and Sculpture. That plan has been in place for quite a while. We've been trying to build up some funds, and we have. This is right down here in Courthouse Square. We did not receive a grant that we applied for that, but that's not going to deter us. Whether we need to use our own funds and make up the gap there, or continue to apply, but that's a point of emphasis for that one specific project. So with that said, I'll wrap it up and happy to answer any questions.
Just to follow up on your praise of staff and the incredible work that they do, and then the extra load they carried through the atmospheric river conditions. I know that they were out working long hours and out in the weather and doing everything that needed to be done. And so I just want to really express my gratitude for that as well.
Well, thank you. It's not just public services. There are many departments here that do that.
Yep. Supervisor Crandall?
Yeah, just two things. Just wanted to, give you praise for the situation with Lucerne Harbor. I know it took a little longer than expected, but the fact of the matter is they found something. And so taking that care is a big deal. And so I know it's discouraging and disconcerting for folks of the town of Lucerne, but at the same time, a very important situation there. So just kudos for that. And just had a thought about the museums when it comes to the different areas that we have specific, old buildings, things like that. Are they connecting those to like the Malden book stories, if that makes sense? Because I think it's important to, when we talk about these facilities or even exhibits, seeing the mindset that took back, that was taken back in the time frame. You see what I'm saying? It's just a thought. I don't know if, I know it's a lot of probably referencing and putting together, but I mean, I just really think it's important to know the mindset back when those things were found or established. So just a thought.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. The Lucerne Harbor, CEQA has completed, big milestone, and we're in the process of pulling permits, so that, that we're on the way forward there. For the museum question, it's certainly a topic that I need to talk to the expert, to the curator about, as well as many other experts that are on the various committees that advise the museums. But I can tell you that the Heritage Commission, there's been some discussion of reviving that, which ties into historic properties preservation ordinance. So that these are things that have been discussed, but need to kind of give it a little boot, and it involves more than just public services. That there's multiple departments there. But yeah, that's a topic that has been brought up. But I certainly need to have a conversation with the curator to better answer your question.
All right, thanks, Lars.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Lars.
Thank you.
And next we have Public Works and Water Resources.
Good morning, Board. Scott DeLeon, Public Works and Water Resources. I'd just like to start by acknowledging Deputy Director of Water Resources, Marina Delajanis, who has joined us here today and has assisted in preparation of a number of these slides. So thank you for your assistance and being here. This is a challenge to try to encompass everything that we do and present this, and I was reminded I need to be done in 5 to 7 minutes. So it's a challenge to put all the things that we do, and so with that, I'll make an effort here to quickly go through these things. We presented as an update to the draft 5-year plan to improve the county road network. We secured community funding for the Safe Routes to School project at the Kelseyville sidewalk for the schools there. We completed a road rehab project for roads affected by the sulfur fire, utilizing funding that was provided by your board. We completed a chip seal project this year that included those sulfur fire roads, as well as New Long Valley Road. And pretty excited about this, we leveraged federal funding to purchase a new chip cart for county road chip seal projects. We were using a machine that we were given by Sonoma County. It's 30-something years old, and we were able to purchase a brand-new chip cart utilizing that federal funding. So pretty excited about that. Next slide, please. Prepared a successful grant application for the Soda Bay Corridor Evacuation Route Planning and Maintenance Project, and we completed the construction of a bridge replacement in Witter Springs. For 2023 Public Works, we're obviously continuing our response to the atmospheric river storm that response. We're still doing pothole patching. We're going to be doing pothole patching for a while. The road network, as you all are aware, took a beating from that storm, but crews are working hard to get those repairs completed. We intend to finalize the pavement rehabilitation plan, including development of a strategy for increased funding, begin implementation of that plan, to include preparation of plans and specs for the contracted work and complete surfacing projects performed by county forces. We intend to complete the preliminary design for a new hangar development area at Lamson Airfield. Complete the right-of-way acquisition for South Main Street Soda Bay Road widening project. Complete the slip-out repairs on Socrates Mine Road. It's been a long-standing project, and we hope to have that out to bid and completed this year. Complete bridge replacement projects in Spring Valley and Bartlett Springs, and of course complete that Kelseyville Safe Routes to School project. And it's not on the slide, but complete the Soda Bay Corridor Evacuation Grant objectives. Moving on to water resources. We've had a number of accomplishments with water resources. We submitted the groundwater sustainability plan for Big Valley. We secured internal cannabis tax funding for the abatement of lake bed, dilapidated structures, and abandoned vessels, and we've brought a couple of those to your board where we performed the abatement of those structures. And we will continue to do that in 2023. We received a grant timeline extension from the California Department of Water Resources for the Middle Creek Flood Damage Reduction and Ecosystem Restoration Project for property acquisition. If you recall, that's a $15 million grant. It had a completion date of June of this year, and we received a 5-year extension for that. We had a successful collaboration with the AmeriCorps Civic Spark Fellowship, and they completed our shoreline inventory. We continued to maintain over 9 miles of levees in the Upper Lake community. Using a grant, we launched the Invasive Mussel Introduction Rapid Response and Containment Transition Plan for Clear Lake. And basically what that is it's the development of a plan for what do we do should we be infested with quagga mussels. So again, we're using a grant to do that planning. over $1.6 million in various state funding for a variety of water resources programs and projects. We worked on the working group. We were a member of the California Department of Water Resources County Drought Resilience Plan Guidebook. We secured $750,000 through Congressman Mike Thompson, again for the Middle Creek project, and passed the recertification of FEMA's Community Rating Service, which affects flood insurance premiums for folks in Lake County. For 2023, our points of emphasis, our water resources staff was very involved with our atmospheric river storm response, and will continue to do that. Continue collaboration with local and state entities for pre-drought planning. Kind of interesting to continue talking about that after we've received these rains, but in the event that we don't get any more rains, we're going to be right back in it. So we'll continue with that effort. Continue efforts with collaboration with local, state, and tribal entities for the Clear Lake Hitch habitat conservation. Complete the final report for the Middle Creek flood control feasibility study, and update Chapter 23 of the Clear Lake shoreline. That's the shoreline ordinance. It has not been addressed in many years, and we're working on an update to that. Have applied for funding through the Big Valley Groundwater Sustainability Plan to implement some of the projects there. We'll continue the acquisition of parcels located for the Middle Creek project, and continue our efforts to prevent the infestation of zebra and quagga mussels into Clear Lake with our ramp monitor program, which I think has been really, really successful. Some items that weren't on the slides. Staff completed a 2-year Thule restoration project on Clark Island. That was a collaboration with local tribes and others. We will continue that effort in 2023. I'm going to steal something from a previous presenter, and we really need to improve employee retention and recruitment. We're still struggling, especially on the public works side, to recruit positions in that department. We're going to continue with that. And then finally, I'd just like to thank staff from both Public Works and Water Resources. You know, this year so far has been extremely challenging with the storms, and I think our crews have done some outstanding work, and just like to publicly thank them. So with that, thank you for your time, and try to answer any questions.
And when I reached out to thank you for all of that work, you said, oh, this isn't necessary, this is what our staff does. But it's always important to acknowledge when anyone goes above and beyond, and they certainly did. So I also echo that.
Appreciate that.
Just thank you for, I know in Upper Lake with what we were talking, what you mentioned in here about the levies and whatnot, just being available and working with that group at West Region Town Hall. I appreciate your staff and the workshop that was conducted and all that, so thanks.
Supervisor Green?
Just adding on the pile of thanks. I mean, it's been a quick introduction to me as the new supervisor here, but seeing both the public works side and water resources, incredibly hard at work, handling multiple dueling responsibilities and handling it pretty well from everything I've seen. So super excited to see the work that's been done. I want to acknowledge everything and hear that 2023 has been outlined before. I suspect there might be 1 or 2 bullet points that you haven't been able to plan for just yet, including some that I plan to bring. But compliments all around. I just can't say enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to pass on, over the last couple of weeks, I've done a couple of state of the counties in South County, and one of the biggest glaring things throughout their atmospheric river storm, I know we got long-term work to do on the roads, but the potholes were just exacerbated by the storms. And multiple compliments to your department and all the workers out there of attacking those, the biggest ones, especially in the South County area. So need to pass that on from all of our constituents that you were getting inundated by calls, but your workers got out there and performed. So thank you very much, and to all the departments that did during those trying times. So.
Welcome.
Yeah, the army of pothole fillers. I've been out and about. But the other piece of that is on Facebook, taking road complaints directly there rather than, people having to go through the website. And I know that's extra work, but it seems to be making a difference. It's easier for the public. So I don't know if that's a pilot thing you're trying out. I don't know how sustainable it is, but I think especially during this time when there's an extra load of road complaints, it's good. But I do have a question about when we might see the next version of the road plan.
So I'm working on it. We have a lot of competing interests and still waiting on some information from different utilities. I'm trying to incorporate their plans and undergrounding.
Yes.
What we just can't have is we go out and repair a road and then we have a utility that wants to come in and do a project. So just, if you can imagine all of not just AT&T and Pacific or PG&E, but all of the water systems, all the different water agencies, there's just a lot of folks that we're trying to incorporate into that project. I'd say in the next, we're at the end of January, so hopefully in the next 60 days, we'll be back.
Okay, great. Yeah, there are a lot of moving pieces, a lot of partners, and this is just one thing. It's a big investment that we have to get right.
Right.
So I understand that. Thank you. Anybody?
And one last thing, specific to Lori Price, getting all the information out on the road closures. And
Yes.
just
Yes.
on time, the community greatly appreciated that, and obviously in each district, I think we did too, but that was another specific one I had to mention her,
Well,
getting that
I
information
appreciate
out
that.
there online.
Yeah, we've had a presence on Facebook, and Lori handles that for our department, and again, it's what we do, and she does a spectacular job with that, and so I appreciate your comment, and if she's not listening, I'll be sure and pass it along.
Thank you, Lori. Thanks.
I just wanted to add one more thing. Just with the Sulphur Bank Road, that repaving, and then when you came to the town hall, on East Region Town Hall, the fact that plan was brought forward to us, and it's given a lot of people in the district hope. I know we talked about it possibly being delayed, but the fact that it's being done, people are like, okay, it's going to happen. So just thanks for that too, and the tangibility of some of the roads just lets them know, okay, it's coming. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Registrar of Voters and Elections.
Good morning, Maria Valadez, Registrar of Voters. And I know there's a couple of things I missed on here. So I'll start off with the redistricting that initiated in 2021 with the supervisorial district changes. That had to be implemented, and we had to redraw our boundaries as well as the voting precincts for the June election in 2022. After that, we had the Board of Education that also aligns their districts with the supervisorial districts, which we also had to turn around and implement. Both local college districts, the Mendel Lake Community College and Yuba College District, also redrew their boundaries, so we had to implement those for the November election. We moved into our new office in February of last year, so thank you to Public Services and to IT to assist with making that happen and making it seem so smoothly. In 2022, we conducted 2 elections, the June primary and then the November general election, always making sure that we continue to promote voter participation. We kept our 22 polling locations or polling places and continued deploying our 6 ballot drop boxes so that voters can participate in either matter that they chose to do so. With that, we also, in between the 2 elections, we managed to be able to, 4 of us from the office were able to attend our association, and we are now California Professional Election Administrators, so we graduated with the courses on those. And then Lourdes and I took the CSAC classes, and we also received our credential for that. So that was part of our 2022 accomplishments. In 2023, we are preparing for our tentative 2023 general district election, even though there's no, the majority of our districts switched over to the even year elections. We still have one district that has to still file for candidacy, and so we have to prepare for that. And then in addition, we're now starting to prepare for the March 2024 presidential election. So working on that, and always continue attending training to help us grow within our job performance. And that's it. Thank you.
It was a big year.
Yes, it was.
You moved through it successfully, so thank you for
Thank you to my staff.
It was a lot.
Yes, it was.
Supervisor Green.
Yes, thank you for everything Elections does. ROV, as a recovering elections worker, I like to say hi. And thank you very much for all the hard work for our elections last year, but also to highlight for the community. Depending on where else you live in the country and who's speaking, you'll hear any number of comments and views about the integrity of our elections. And I just want to signal how proud I am of our local election staff and our local community for supporting them. We had several drop boxes out at the last election. I didn't hear anybody camping out on them. I didn't hear any notion of the criticism that has been leveled at election workers in other communities. So both to the elections department and to the community that supports that department, job well done all around. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I also wanted to mention one more thing that I haven't brought up forward, but in 2021, we moved in with Granicus to do our campaign filing disclosure campaign statements, which are now online and viewable for the public. So that was really a big help for us for the June, or for last year, or for 2022, where people could go and view campaign filings where contributions, people ask about contributions, so they're no longer having to call our office. It's online and it's on our website. So that was a big accomplishment.
Great.
Thank you.
Lake County Sheriff's Office.
Good morning, still a little bit. Rob Howe, Lake County Sheriff Coroner. Thank you for your time. So I took this 5 to 7 minute thing pretty seriously, so our slides are kind of down to a minimum. We'll get this through as quickly as possible, but of course be willing to answer or discuss anything that you guys might want to talk about. So for 2022 accomplishment, we'll start with our repeater project. There are 12 repeaters in the county, I believe. We purchased those repeaters with Homeland Security funds. 3 have been equipped, and the remainder will be equipped in 2023. Implementation of STOP data reporting. So that's Racial Identity Profiling Act. We established a procedure to collect that and report to the Department of Justice. I think we have some more. This just goes in a little more detail about the radios. It doesn't just help, went over that. It doesn't just help law enforcement, it goes into how it helps public works, animal control, special districts. They all use those radio repeaters. So a few more of the accomplishments. Roadmap Task Force. We continued our participation in that. We're looking to actually increase that. Supervisor Cranley brought up a point with what do you do with these meth houses? And one of the bad things about working low-staffed is you're doing just the minimum and you're kind of only reactive, so it's really difficult to make a difference. My opinion is these task force or things like it, that's the answer. That's, working collaboratively with other departments in a proactive stance is a way to try to make an impact. We've had cases, or you can have cases, where you arrest a dealer out of a house. Well, there will be another dealer in that same house before that person is even booked. But if a deputy arrests that person, then you have code enforcement to shut down the house, and the DA's office to do some asset forfeiture. Working together is the way to impact those things. So we contracted with the state to provide psychological evaluations and treatment at our jail. This is all to decrease incompetent to stand trial cases. This is a really big deal. If the board hasn't been following SB 184, essentially the state has realigned the responsibility to decrease ISTs to the county. It's a tough thing because we really have, as a sheriff's department in the county, we really have very little control over it. We do make arrests, but so does LPD, CPD, CHP. And if a court determines that that person arrested is an IST, incompetent to stand trial, well, the state's determined that they've come up with essentially fining counties for the number of ISTs they have. The formula goes off a base year last year, and if we see more than that, we'll be fined for the number of ISTs we have. So these kind of programs that we've established in the jail are extremely important. Right now, we're tracking to not be in that place, but that can change. We created and filled a staff services analyst position at the jail. This is a position created specifically to coordinate programs, classes, to reduce recidivism, to help that transition out of custody. Next is, so points of emphasis going on to 2023. There's a couple of them here. I'm going to go out of order. Progress toward completion of the Armory repurposing project. Lars spoke about that a little bit. That's a big project. As I understand it, we just finished the RFP for the architectural consultant, and that should be coming before the board at some point. But again, that's multi-years out, I think. Big thing to keep working on, but I want to focus more on improving the staffing levels through expanded and unique recruiting methods. One thing I wanted to, and work this into a little thank you. Right now, I'll give you a couple of stats. We're looking at close to 40% vacancy rate in correctional deputies, 30% vacancy in deputy, and currently 57% in dispatch. And I bring those stats just to really thank the men and women who are there. If you can imagine working and doing everything in a sheriff's office does with that kind of vacancy rate. So just a big thank you to the employees that we already have. And we are looking forward to working closely with HR, being aggressive and innovative with our recruiting techniques to improve that in the coming years. Let's see here. We've enhanced our social media, and we're working on online job recruiting efforts, Indeed, Monster, Facebook, LinkedIn, essentially anything we can do to get to young people that maybe interest them in law enforcement. A lot of emphasis on our trainee program coming up. You've probably seen the flyers out there for it. I think that's another way where we can attract people to law enforcement. Again, this is an issue we could talk way more than 5 to 7 minutes about, is the recruitment issue, but that'll be our focus for 2023. That's what I have.
All right, thank you. And you also got to experience your first disaster, second week?
Yeah.
And your staff, again, stepped up, so thank you for...
Tremendously. I thank them as well, Gavin and Leah. I was out of county in training. So my first declaration of an emergency came via phone and working with people, and I've given them thanks personally, but it was really, really awesome to have everybody answer the phone, everybody stay in communication, and the Sheriff's Department truly does have a great staff that I got fortunate enough to walk into.
Anyone from the board? No? All right, well, thank you so much.
Thanks.
So, Department of Social Services, and you're going to be doing that?
No, I think we'll defer at this time, and since Mr. Harder is in the room, let's do him.
Okay, we will move on to special districts.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
Scott Harder, Special Districts Administrator. Thank you for having me today. I guess I want to start out by saying, the 2022 accomplishments, we've got capital projects. We've got a lot of capital projects in the works. Those are always the the flashy projects, the whiz-bang ones that are like, ooh, gee, great, the visible ones. But the reality is we have 5 water districts and 4 sewer collection systems and 9 lighting districts that we maintain. And we serve 35,000 customers in the county, and my staff is incredible, and they do that day in and day out. And they continue to ensure that potable water is provided to our customers, that sewer is collected, it stays in the pipe, doesn't spill out on the ground, it gets treated and then shipped to our partners up in Calpine and up in the Geysers area. And that kind of ongoing thing, that just happens because of my incredible staff. And they do this in spite of, atmospheric rivers and drought. And so that kind of brings me to the first bullet point is, one of our accomplishments for 2022 was that in spite of, multiple years of drought and significant challenges, my staff was able to continue to provide potable water to those 5 water districts without interruption. Was it challenging? Yeah. Were they at the plant 24 hours sometimes taking shift? Yeah. Were we on the emergency intertie with the city of Lakeport at times? We were, but because of their dedication and their hard work and their skill and their abilities, we were able to keep water to our customers, without interruption. So that's probably the biggest accomplishment. Some of our other highlights on the capital project side, we completed the Quail Trail water main replacement project. So that's a grant-funded project to replace about 2,000 feet of water main out in our Spring Valley Water District. Construction has completed with the exception of paving back the trench cut. So that'll happen once things warm up. But that was an IRWM-funded project to reduce leaks out there, help keep our variance down, help keep more water in the pipes going to our customers. One of the other major accomplishments, and it's been needing to happen for quite some time, is that we were able to work with our ratepayers, even though it was contentious, to adopt a rate increase in Middletown. And that was before the board, and I thank you for your efforts in championing that as well, because it's really needed for the sustainability of that district. We've got a couple of more sewer districts probably in the next upcoming year where we're going to be looking at and considering rate increases. So we'll be back before you again with some more 218 processes. But rates had not been increased in Middletown since 1995, 27 years. So those go into effect next month. Just fair warning, you may hear some public outcry. We're already prepared for it. But the rates are still reasonable given the other rates around the county, and it's really going to provide that sustainability and long-term sustainability for the Middletown community and allow us to move forward. We've got a $5 million grant where we can do treatment plant improvements at that treatment plant, which we would not have been able to move forward on without a sustainable rate structure. So those are a couple of the highlights. I'm happy to talk more if you guys have specific questions, but I don't want to take too much time. So moving forward, our 2023 points of emphasis, just continue that operation, continue that what's the word I'm looking for? Dependable service that we provide to our customers. Water and sewer, people get up in the morning, they get ready for work, they go jump in the shower, they turn on the knob, they expect water to be there. We want to be able to continue to provide that. That's the big highlight. We've got some staff retirements coming up in our field. Some of the senior field staff are retiring, so there's going to be some transitions, some continuity. We're going to work with that and work through that. But, continue standard operations and maintenance, and then continue all the capital projects we've got going on. We've got millions of dollars of grant projects that we're managing. We've got the Full Circle project. We've got tank replacements in Soda Bay. We've got projects, up on the North Shore. We're also working with developers. We've seen a significant increase in development within the county. So that ties in with that 2028 vision, having water and sewer infrastructure, improvements to those facilities so that development can happen. We've got the Collier Avenue project up in Nice. We're working closely with the developer. City of Clear Lake is doing tremendous amounts of work down there. They're building housing projects, they're building hotels. So we interface with those developers to ensure there's capacity in the system, to ensure that we get the development fees that are required, and we move those projects forward successfully. And then, lastly, we have a dedicated grant manager who does a wonderful job of finding grant resources and then managing them. So we're going to continue to do that. We look for creative ways to fund these projects and finance them because we do live in a disadvantaged county and we can't put that all on the back of our ratepayers.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the high degree in which your staff performs, even during difficult situations, because they were obviously out there during the atmospheric river storms, but in the summer months when the lake was low and doing whatever it takes to keep the water flowing. So,
yeah, couldn't do it
great
without
team.
them.
We have a great team.
Yeah,
Supervisor Crandall?
just wanted to also emphasize, because you mentioned, all the responsibilities that special districts deals with, but also the lighting. Upper Lake, you got to the bottom of that situation with those lights, and that really helped out for the town, I know. And I know there's still work to be done, but figured out why it's, not to mention Clear Lake Oaks and that lighting district as well. So I know you're working on that, but I just wanted to highlight that so the public knows there's also other things that you guys are
9
tackling
lighting
as well.
districts, which I didn't mention that we manage,
Supervisor Green?
Yeah, and not to put anyone on the spot, you least of all, but water, sewer, wastewater, South Main Street, Soda Bay corridor, the failure of the annexation kind of raises fresh questions. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, you least of all, but we're going to have to talk about that stuff before Public Works spins up the next steps on the road widening project. So I don't know if you've been involved in some of those prior discussions or it was all on admin, but look forward to whatever input we have moving forward. But since that thing didn't go through, I am eager to hear what the next steps might be from everyone involved in services down there. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Treasurer, tax collector.
Good morning, Board. Thanks for the opportunity to present on this. I'm going to share some of the accomplishments from the office with last year. Even though I wasn't there, I was working closely with them, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what they were doing. First, I'd like to commend the staff in the office. There's a great deal of job duties to complete, and they've been operating at a 30% vacancy rate on average. So it's a lot of stress on the staff, and I'm really proud of the efforts they've made to get all of these tasks completed. So to run through some of them, there was the successful completion of an extensive Chapter 7 tax sale, which is the property tax default auction. There's continued development of the investment program for Treasury, for our Treasury pool for both the county and districts throughout the jurisdiction. The continued collection of transient occupancy taxes. The continued development and implementation of cannabis cultivation and business taxes. And the continued management, billing and collections of secured, unsecured, and supplemental property tax. Furthermore, there's other tasks the office continues to complete. The office continues to help coordinate tax information for real estate transactions, maintains daily treasury operations and reporting, manages the court collections program to enforce court-ordered debt, and manages state-mandated reporting of cash and personal property for absent heirs or claimants. Some of the future plans and points of emphasis that I would like to address are heavily dependent on technology. There's a lot of technological improvements that we need to do to upgrade existing software programs. So that's going to be one of our highest priorities, especially with the shortage in staff. If we can update a lot of this software, it's really going to open up a lot more time for us, help promote efficiency, and I think it's really going to help us go forward on a lot of the other projects we'd like to get to. Some of the highlights are to update the existing software supporting bank check processing. This would allow for the electronic transmission of checks. Right now, our checks go to the bank manually. If we can do this, we can really speed things up. It's going to cut back on time, but more importantly, it's also the gateway to the other payment processing program we'd really like to work at, and that's the lockbox payment processing service. We have to do more software upgrades to get there, so these other things have to happen first. But that would allow an outside vendor to actually process our payments in a more immediate fashion. This is what a lot of our neighboring counties use. And right now, the vendor we already work with for check imaging is the one that these other counties have. It's actually able to fully integrate with both our check processing service and our megabyte property tax system. So this could be a real opportunity for us to basically get very rapid processing of our payments with a more automated application into our system. And that's one of the biggest burdens right now on office staff. So the next, one of the larger projects that I'd like to address is the development of a low-value ordinance for your board to review. That would help take some of the lower-value properties off the tax roll. That's something that I would be working with both the assessor's office on and the support of staff and county council to help develop a plan that could work for the county. The goal with that ordinance, along with a review of discharges across departmental programs, which would include court-ordered debt as well as tax programs, is to reduce the existing inventory and limit the collections activity to more cost-effective operations. Right now, we're collecting on a lot of bad debt, debt that's very small, debt that's old, with enormous interest and penalties, no real possibility of actual recovery. And so it's an enormous burden on staff time, and there's really limited opportunity for revenue. So whatever we can do to actually constrict this to debt we can collect on and sort of make it worth our time and effort, that is something I'd really like to explore. One of the other big projects is another software update, and that's to update our existing property tax software. This can help streamline operations. Megabyte has other modules and services that we can add on. One of them helps support tax sales. Right now, a lot of the processes behind our tax sales are manual in nature. I've been working on them. We have other staff in the office working on them. If we were to upgrade the software, that just opens up further opportunity for staff time and helps streamline our operations. So that sums it up. I'm happy to take questions.
Supervisor Green?
Yeah, certainly excited to see the idea of discharging some of these low-value debts. I think that type of efficiency is super exciting. We had, just like CDD, we had discussed previously, at least in preliminary talks, about some possibility of leveraging software that California Cannabis Authority has available to help things like tracking cannabis tax revenues. And again, without boxing anybody in, I know there's a value proposition there, but I hope you'll continue to be open and continue talks like that. I know that you'll have a different number of other software applications that could do the same thing, potentially differently, but this is a cannabis central county. We need to be in a position of leadership, and I think in just understanding the offerings of that, it's kind of a CSAC-sponsored JPA, so there may be some value there. So again, without boxing you in or CDD in, I am curious to see if there is something that JPA would have to offer that would help streamline operations, collections of taxes, and also maybe give us some information that would be useful for compliance work. So with that, I appreciate everything you've presented so far. Good luck in 2023. We're glad you're on board.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have our University of California Cooperative Extension Pharma Advisors.
Good afternoon, Board.
Good
I get to be the first one to say that
afternoon.
today, so that's kind of fun. It's a real pleasure to be able to present to you guys today some of the results and where we're headed in UC Cooperative Extension, also known as the Farm Advisor's Office. On this particular first slide, I've outlined the programs that we basically offer with advisors that are either located in Lake or in Mendocino or adjoining counties. And so we presently have a diversified agricultural advisor who was just hired. Of course, pomology advisor, you've known Rachel Elkins, I'm sure, for a lot of years. Viticulture, we also have a brand new advisor in viticulture with Glenn McGordy retiring. You still got an old one here in the livestock and natural resources area, that's me. Forestry, I think you've also heard from Dr. Michael Jones. He's presented to you in the past. We have a brand new vertebrate pest control advisor that will be servicing Lake County, as well as Napa and Marin, I believe. In addition to support, we have an integrated pest management program with the goal is to reduce pesticide use and to monitor problems with invasive species. You all love the 4-H Youth Development Program, which was what most people recognize as one of our programs. You have an outstanding Master Gardener program in Lake County, and we have a Master Gardener coordinator do that. I think I mentioned the last time I visited with you that we have a water quality, quantity, and climate change advisor that's in the hiring process. So that'll be a future in 2023, as well as a fire and prescribed burn advisor that will be based and serve Lake County. The diversified agricultural is Clebson Goncalves. He is from Brazil. He started July 10th of this year. He's developed a needs assessment. All of our young advisors, when we first get them here, is they're supposed to learn the county. They're going to eventually be like Rachel and I, that become kind of area geographic experts in our disciplines. And so he's actually contacting growers at this point. He's reached out to them with a survey. He's been, of course, answering questions. That's what a lot of people view us as, is the technical expertise you call when you've got a question. So he's been doing that. He's already wrote and received 2 grants to look at organic weed control. So he's very successful. He's hitting the ground running. And he also has his PhD. Obviously, pomology, Rachel's been here the longest, and so her projects really at this point, she's completing 10-year projects, and I won't read all of those to you to maintain time, but she's, in addition, of course, we use all kinds of multimedia, Zooms, Facebook, social media, all forms to deliver our project. Chris Chen, Dr. Chris Chen, just started in January. He's given 3 separate informative talks on vineyard management and extreme weather events in Lake County already. He's wrote and received grants to establish a 3-year trial at a large vineyard collaborators property in the High Valley ABA area. He's created a video on pruning for Master Gardener programs, so even local small-scale vineyard owners will have that training available. Myself, I've conducted a statewide anaplasmosis cattle disease study where I've worked with 5 different ranchers collecting blood samples. Anaplasmosis causes abortion in cattle, and it's caused by the carrier is the pahawehu tick, and animals that are exposed to it, their first year will actually abort, and the abortion losses are significant. So that's one that's there going on. I've also been working on what we call a kind of a satellite forage analysis. We're using satellite imagery to estimate forage production and forage loss. And we're ground truthing that on ranches. I have one plot out in Middletown that we harvest 4 times a year. And that actually, we've got some results from that already. That has helped in this last drought cycle to get emergency funding for our ranchers so that they can buy low-cost feeds. Forestry, Michael Jones, we're road warriors, so it's always hard to get information from all of our different advisors. Of course, he's hosted a forest stewardship workshop for Lake County. That was a multi-day event, and then they had a field day at Cobb Mountain. He's collaborated with CAL FIRE to conduct a forest health survey and identifying the extent of the conifer mortality. Again, he did present to the board. He served as a subject matter on the collaborative Lake County Conifer Mortality Task Force, and he's continued to build the capacity of the Lake County Prescribed Burn Association. He's secured a very large grant to help with that process, and of course he's conducted and helped conduct several community small-scale burns. Also, he has been collaborating with the Tribal Eco Restoration Alliance and the Watershed Center to help host a prescribed fire training exchange in Lake County. 4-H Youth Development is Julie Frizzell. The camp is focused on camp teen staff trainings, food safety, leadership training, and conflict resolution. They put on a summer camp for youth from both Lake and Mendocino counties that's really widely attended. Focuses on healthy food, life skills, team building, and cooperation. And there's collaboration with Big Valley Band of Pomos to open a new, and forgive me, I will not even attempt to pronounce the Zabenapo 4-H club. So that will be a brand new 4-H club in Lake County, which we're really excited about. Next slide, please. So our goals, our ag and natural resources programs are usually long-term. So most of the research projects described for 2022 accomplishments will continue. Approved for recruitment in 2023 are those 2 advisors that I was talking about, and I think those will be added resources to us, especially given the problems with water quantity, quality, and the impending climate change. As the new advisors mature, their educational research and outreach in their areas is going to expand. And we tell our advisors that they should only plan 50% of their time so that they can take account of opportunities that exist to help the communities and to help do problem-solving research. So I think I've mentioned this before. Any of your constituents or the board itself, if you have an issue that comes up, please feel free to contact us. We're the open door to the front door to the University of California. And if our local expertise is not sufficient, we're backed up with a network of specialists on 3 campuses, as well as even research scientists throughout the whole University of California network. So we may not know the answer ourselves here locally, but we can help you. With that, I don't want to run into the lunch hour too much, so if there's any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Thank you. The expertise that your advisors bring to our community members is absolutely invaluable, and I've reached out to many of them multiple different times, even before working here. So I know I've worked most closely with Mike Jones this last year, and Rachel with the Walnuts. So I'm just so grateful that they are here. They have the open door. They're always available, and they are just an incredible resource.
And I would offer that if you want to learn more about any one of their individual programs, please invite them to give a presentation. You know, I'm just trying to give a quick overview, but as I said, these are all very, very talented professionals in their fields, and they're here to help the community in any way they can.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
From the board. Supervisor Green?
Yeah, well, I want to thank you for the meeting we had at your office, and also I wanted to thank Rachel, who I spent some time with on the phone a couple days ago. I appreciate everyone's openness. I was asking you about cannabis, and apparently that's going to be a bridge too far for UC, even at this late date. So UC, shake it loose, come on. In addition to the long-term projects and the long-term body of knowledge, which is so valuable, we have some very distinct short-term challenges coming up here in this county involving competing water uses. And our long-standing understanding of beneficial water uses and best available technology for agriculture is changing rapidly, both because of 3 years of drought plus, and then some recent developments involving the Clear Lake Hitch and law cases involving the public trust doctrine of water use as well. And without putting you on the spot, I just want to, again, appreciate the talks that we've had so far, but invite you to look internally if there are short-term actions that could be taken absent a unified request, because I think we're still trying to figure out where we want to go in the next year. But UC is a trusted venue where information gets shared, where science gets applied. And so I hope you can start those, even though you guys are out in the field and you have to chase them down, I hope you can herd the cats just long enough to discuss what role UC could have in a short-term response to these evolving situations. It could be just low-hanging fruit, starting off with a workshop on best management practices for frost protection pumping. Because that's been an issue. I know that is the best available technology, but there could be some nuance in how that gets done on particular spots. So again, I thank you for all the science and all the hard work that you've done. But if I can issue kind of a little invitation to look internally, this may be a busy year for all of us, UC Cooperative Extension included.
Well, that's what we're here for. And so that's why I say when we plan only 50% of our time and effort, it's so we can respond to those kinds of short-term types of topics as well. And again, the whole goal here is to provide the science.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Supervisor Sabatier?
I just wanted to make sure and speak up because of an idea that came in my mind. Just wanting to hopefully get Mike Jones to come and speak with us when we have our next conversation about the fire maps. I think his perspective and his expertise might be useful in making sure that we have appropriate language in our letter.
Yeah, by all means, do invite him, and I can tell him to contact you, I guess, to make that kind of arrangement, or who should I have him?
He can reach out to me.
Okay, okay. I can do that.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, we can reach out to him too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we have a lunch break. Are the other two presenters going to be available after lunch?
It's unknown. It's unknown at this time. Thank you.
Okay. I was just wondering if we should do public comment now, or should we do it after lunch if we're going to have the other two presenters. What do you guys want to do?
That's up to you. You can always, after the lunch break, begin with public comment on the presentations that have been made. And if the other two cannot participate, you can just take what you have, or you can do it now.
I had one follow-up question too. On all the department head presentations, does human resource have one? No? That's right, admin. Okay, just clarification. I saw Pam in the room, so I just.
Do you have a preference of public comment before or after lunch?
I'm okay with it right now. That's me.
I think so too.
I'm good with now just because the public has been here the whole time and maybe they want to speak and leave and move on.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so now we'll open it up for public comment on the presentations that we've been hearing all morning. Is there anyone in the Zoom room? That is not staff. I don't see anybody in the Zoom room. Okay. Then we'll close public comment, and if our other two presenters are available, we can continue with that after lunch. And we'll take a 1 hour break and come back here at 1:20.